Welcome, everybody, to our October 5th City Commission work session. So nice to see so many people in the audience. Yay. So we'll call this meeting to order, and if we would please rise, we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. All right. We got a lot to cover today, so we'll start off with presentations. We have the Native Plant Month Proclamation. I'll turn that over to Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Very excited that it's Native Plant Month here in Dunedin, around the country. Could I have Sari Wood and Craig Wilson come on up, guys? Right, and our proclamation is, whereas the Florida Native Plant Society was founded in the summer of 1980 in Central Florida by a group of scientists, educators, and conservationists concerned about Florida's native plants and the introduction of non-native species overtaking natural areas. And whereas the mission of the Florida Native Plant Society is the preservation, conservation, and restoration of the native plants and native plant communities of Florida. And whereas the Native Plant Society now consists of 33 chapters, 4,000 members who volunteer their time and skills by advocating for conservation of lands, land management, restoration projects, research, grants, education, public policies, landscape awards, and teaching Floridians about the benefits of native plants, and where the city of Dunedin has an incredible wealth of natural areas to showcase Florida's native plants and native plant communities across both public and private lands. And whereas the City of Dunedin Parks and Recreation Department will be working with the Florida Native Plant Society to conduct a floristic study at the new Gladys Douglas Preserve. And whereas the Florida Native Plant Society Pinellas Chapter, encompassing all of Pinellas County, is an important part of bringing our community together through field trips, restoration efforts, and environmental programs, and educational outreaches throughout the year. Now I, Jeff Gow, by the virtue of the authority vested in me by the Mayor of the City of Dunedin, Florida, and on behalf of the entire City Commission, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Florida Native Plant Month in Dunedin, and urge Dunedin residents to explore our local parks, native plant nurseries, and encourage citizens to volunteer or become a member of the Florida Native Plant Society or other native plant organizations such as Friends of the Hammock. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having us today. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, it's truly an honor to be here, and I'm excited for October because it's Native Plant Month. So I'm, as many of you know, I'm a kind of a plant and tree geek, and I love it. So to have a month that's dedicated to trees and plant species that are direct advocates and benefits to our environment it's a pleasure to be up here speaking. So why native? What's the importance? Native plants support local ecosystems. They provide food and shelter for insects and animals. They thrive in our climate, so they work in a symbiotic relationship instead of against it, instead of battling Mother Nature. Native plants typically work well without a lot of maintenance. They reduce maintenance, they reduce the usage of water, they reduce fertilizer and herbicide usage, and pesticide usage. Our landscape code even recognizes the uniqueness and the necessity for native plants. So with certain new projects that you see being built, there are minimum native plant percentages that are required. And we're also looking to, we're currently actually starting to train city employees and other crew leaders on native plants and how to incorporate that into some of our landscapes moving forward on public property and parkland. So if we're ever revamping, we're looking to try to incorporate native plants as much as we can. And then there's a dream plan that I'm sure you all are aware of that we're looking to also incorporate native plants into that plan as well. Additionally, if you'd like to find further information, you can go to our city's webpage under trees, and you'll find certain links to Florida Native Plant Society, the Florida Wildlife Organization, and other really important articles that can kind of help educate you on Florida native plants. So Parks and Recreation for years has recognized the importance of native plants. A few years ago, the department became a member of the Florida Native Plant Society, and recently the City of Dunedin and Parks and Recreation Department was awarded a Floristic Grant study by the Florida Native Plant Society to study many of the unique and imperiled plants within the Gladys Douglas Preserve. So that study will begin soon, and it's a year-long study. I have with me today Sari Wood, the Secretary for Florida Native Plant Society, who would like to briefly say a few words about the uniqueness and importance of Florida native plants. With that, I'd like to say thank you and welcome, Sari.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. How are you? I realize I'm a new face. I make the rounds for the education world quite frequently, but this is recently my first foray into some other nonprofit work. It's an honor to be here to speak before you this morning. Since its inception, the Florida Native Plant Society has worked to preserve, conserve, and restore the native plants and native plant communities of Florida. We are both honored and thrilled to now have the City of Dunedin as such an avid and forward-thinking and diligent partner in our mission. Dunedin deserves high praise for the green initiatives that it has brought to fruition over the last year and beyond. Our city is truly a natural treasure, but the only reason that it remains so is due to city leadership. And so for that, we thank you because it is truly a community effort. I have never seen a community effort as I saw with the Gladys Douglas Preserve project. It was just a tremendous connection that I think that all people needed at that time, and it just made it so much better that we were all able to work together to make that happen. So on behalf of the Pinellas chapter and the Florida Native Plant Society, a heartfelt thank you to all of you. And I would like to let you all know of some projects that we are continually working on in the community so that for those of you who are not familiar with the work we do would have an opportunity to go see some things in action. We've recently sponsored a plot in the Dunedin Community Garden off of Virginia. We are going to use that as an interpretive space to keep that planted with a good selection of locally viable native plants that people can come and read interpretive signage and learn more about those particular species and the habitats that they belong in. A big part of our mission is educating the public on the importance of native plants and things, but also to teach people how to implement those principles in their own property or in the community at large. So one thing that we would like to do is to invite everyone, residents, leadership as well, to please visit our website at pinellasnativeplants.org, because there you will find a calendar that links to all of our field trips and special events and programs. We routinely have speakers and presentations and things on specialized topics such as, container gardening with native plants and the preservation of endangered species or how to identify and remove invasives, etc. We also have several projects around town. In addition to the community garden, we just recently adopted a dune at Honeymoon Island. And of course, we've been putting a lot of manpower into the Gladys Douglas Preserve project. So thank you very much for all of your support. Please come visit us at our website for more information, including how to join the Florida Native Plant Society and to discover a volunteering opportunity so that you can get more involved. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you, guys. All right, and our second presentation is Florida City Government Week, and I'll turn that over to Commissioner Franey.
Awesome. Okay, Teresa, you're coming up. Good. Anybody else want to come up? I mean, Jorge and Jory, you guys good? I mean, you want to sit there and okay.
We won't fit 370 people in this place.
Okay. All right. Florida City Government Week, October 18th, 24th, 2021. Whereas city government is the government closest to most citizens and the one with the most direct daily impact upon its residents. And whereas municipal, sometimes I think one of the only remaining functional levels of government, I'll just say that. Whereas municipal government provides services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making their city their home. And whereas city government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment and understanding of its many responsibilities. And whereas city government officials and employees share the responsibility to bring awareness of the city government's role in enhancing the quality of life in communities. And whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity for elected officials and city staff to spread the word to all citizens of Florida that they can shape and influence this branch of government. Whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities have joined together to promote and sponsor Florida City Government Week. Now, therefore, I, Maureen Moafreni, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Mayor of the City of Dunedin, and on behalf of the entire City Commission, do hereby proclaim October 18th, 2021 through the 24th as Florida City Government Week in Dunedin, and encourage all citizens, city government officials, and employees to participate in events that recognize and celebrate Florida City Government Week. Teresa, you come forward. Can you share a few comments? Sure. Perfect.
Thank you, Commissioner Freeney, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of Commission. Teresa Smalling, Director of HR and Risk Management for the city. I'm pleased to present to get this award on behalf of the all our 370 employees and our volunteers that already know about city government and the role of city government. We are already proactive in sending the message to help educate people in our Citizens Academy that we're currently, we have 24 participants in, and we also will be doing some events in the coming year, public recognition to help with our younger people to get to understand what government is all about. We do have a short presentation of video that we'd like to go ahead and kick off for you, and that will be sort of the kickoff for the 18th. We will have a couple of other events that we will be sending out through social media. So I'll turn it over to communications. So that's just a snapshot of what our City of Dunedin government employs the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa. And I'm just going to add to that. Wasn't one of those pictures holding a drink you, Mayor? The one where they were toast?
I'm
Just
sure.
kidding. Just kidding. No, I mean, I didn't mean to take a swipe about the county. The county's a pretty functional government as well, but realistically, when you think about it, there's just no government that's like your local. I mean, and when you look at everything on that video and you think about our community, it's all because we have a very engaged community. It's not just because, you know, we're close to the people, but we're very engaged with our citizens, and that's what makes it. But we've always had great employees. They're the spine of what makes it happen, so especially want to thank them in this government week. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so our next item is an update on where we are with our water plant fire and what the next steps are. So this is something we definitely want to pay attention to. Jennifer, did you have any openings?
Mayor, I asked, I actually sent an email out on Saturday evening requesting that we put together this presentation for all of you this morning. As you know, we had a pretty serious fire at our reverse osmosis water treatment plant last week. Staff has been working tirelessly in the meantime to bring us back up to speed. I have had a lot of questions as I walk about town about the plant, and so I think it's important that we convey as much information as we can during the course of this meeting, which will probably be shared repeatedly afterwards. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Stanek, who will open the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Welcome, Paul.
Welcome. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Paul Stanek, Public Works and Utilities Director. I will be providing the initial background information regarding the fire at the water treatment plant, followed by updates from Russell Ferlita and Teresa Smalling. During the early morning hours, shortly after 4 a.m. on Thursday, September 30th, 2021, fire damaged the reverse osmosis water treatment plant located off of County Road 1 in San Christopher. The cause of the incident is currently under investigation. During that time period, a scheduled periodic cleaning of the reverse osmosis membrane skids was underway. It is believed the origination of the fire may have occurred in one of the clean-in-place or CIP tanks used in the cleaning process. Multiple engines from multiple fire departments responded to the fire, and it was extinguished quickly, though the intense heat from the fire caused severe damage to the equipment contained within the building and also caused smoke damage in the administration portion of the building. I'm happy to report no one was injured in the fire. Staff proceeded to enact contingency plans to make water without reverse osmosis process. Currently, the plant is up and running, producing an adequate supply of safe drinking water. In the immediate hours after the fire, staff contacted the Department of Environmental Protection to report the damage and the changes of water treatment. In accordance with state law, the city's fire marshal contacted the state fire marshal due to the severity of the loss and provide an independent investigation. Pinellas County was notified in case the Pinellas County Utilities interconnect with the City of Dunedin was needed to supply water to the City of Dunedin. Coca-Cola and the breweries of Dunedin were contacted to notify them of the change of water quality they use to produce their products. We had a number of our neighboring municipalities reach out with offers of help and equipment. Also, Coca-Cola reached out offering equipment, engineers, contractors, or anything else we need from their vast number of resources. From the consumer standpoint, residents may notice the water is harder without the benefit of the reverse osmosis process. With that, I will turn the next portion of the update over to Russell Ferlita.
Thank you. Welcome, Russell.
Morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Russell Ferlita, Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities and City Engineer. As Paul said, the water plant did sustain some fire damage. We do have some short-term temporary measures. The plant currently has adequate generator power to maintain operations and continue to produce potable water. The potable water interconnect with Pinellas County was tested and is currently open on the Pinellas side. It is available if the need for additional potable water arises. Immediate actions include working with the contractor to get temporary power and communications up and running, and working with the contractor and vendors to make damage assessments and make recommendations for repairs. Long-term temporary measures include working with the vendors and the contractor to make the repairs to get all the processes back online and operating at capacity and reliably. This includes coordinating with the insurance provider, disaster response team, and the contractor and vendors to ensure that we have the resources required to implement the repairs. We'll continue damage assessments to determine which parts and components of our process require replacement and what permanent repairs need to be made. Our permanent measures will include bringing the final repairs to fruition and bringing the plant back to the pre-fire conditions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Teresa Smalling.
Good morning again. Teresa Smalling, Director of HR and Risk Management for the city. The water plant is a covered asset under our property insurance. Fire is a covered loss. Our insurance is through the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, or FMIT, and this is actually our first test of their services, and we have been very impressed because they have as much a vested interest as we do in making sure that the water plant is restored back to pre-fire condition. So through Synergy NDS, their turnkey disaster response team, they were out as soon as about 9 a.m. on Thursday. As soon as we sent the report of the damage, their project manager came on site, assessed the damage. ServPro has been contracted to provide the cleaning services for the administration building, as well as the any areas in the water plant that can be cleaned. The FMIT is very concerned with making sure that we have not only remediate the damage, but also restore the water plant back to its pre-fire condition. So we are working with them, and they are sending out a forensic engineer in order to assess or investigate the root cause of this fire. They also have a project manager on site daily providing multiple reports to staff, keeping us on track and providing any services or equipment that we need in the short term while we get the water production plant back up to normal production. Turning it back to Paul.
In closing, as you heard, we're all working together to get the water plant up and running as close to normal as possible in the short and the long term. The final question is, what can you and I do as residents to help? That is simple. Please try your best to conserve water. Also, we reported earlier that reclaimed water customers would not be affected. I must confess that it was a wrong statement, and we need our reclaimed water customers to conserve as well. I underestimated the effect of the reverse osmosis concentrate stream going to the wastewater treatment plant and the simultaneous halt of any and all precipitation. We are looking to augment the reclaim system to get over this hump and into the dormant growing season. Lastly, I would like to thank the other city departments and divisions for helping out, providing support, workspace, and some timely air conditioning. I also can't thank the water plant staff enough for stepping up, working quickly and smartly to do what they do best, which is make good and safe drinking water. Thank you, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm sure there are a lot. I'll start with Vice Mayor.
Actually, no real questions. Just thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Okay. Commissioner?
No, I don't have any questions either, because you all have answered them behind the scenes, but I think from everything I can see, it's been handled really well professionally, and my only comment, since I used to be risk manager, is, we've spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on property insurance over the years. This is the first time we've had a big loss, and it sounds like, we've got good coverage, and that's really important, because it makes you feel good when it happens. So thank you for all the hard work.
Commissioner?
Do we have any estimation of costs of loss? Do we have any estimates?
Not at this time.
Okay, that's okay. I just wondered. Again, thank you for your quick work, and I'm really glad we did this, because there have been a lot of questions and discussions. So I think it was very smart for Jennifer, for you to put this on so that we could all talk it out. People knew where we were. I did have one of the questions about reclaimed. So reclaimed, just like everybody else, we got to help right now and keep it conserved.
Please conserve. Now, I'm happy to report we have 50 to 60% chance rain at the end of the week, so hopefully we will get a little rain. So that will ease everybody's dry and crispy lawns.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Torga?
Thank you. The city manager has actually kept me up to speed with all of this, except she did not tell me about the rain forecast.
I was going to do that later.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just kind of for the benefit of the public, I just thought of a couple of things that you might want to answer. How long do you think we might have to do this conservation until the repairs are done?
Answer that. Short-term repairs, we're expecting to get the plant operational capacity within the next 2 months or so.
2 months?
About 2 months or so is operational at capacity. That's what we're expecting based on the estimates from our vendors at this point. Now, that doesn't take into account any unforeseen conditions that they might run into.
Which they will always happen in construction, so.
Exactly, but that is also
Probably through the
temporary.
holidays.
That's what we are calling long-term temporary. Permanent repairs is going to take much longer.
Yeah.
We're expecting 6 months to a year, and that's really just an estimate. We won't know, again, until we uncover the extent of the damage.
And so when you say full capacity, is that just water production or is that reverse osmosis as well?
That will be reverse osmosis as well. We had the vendor that manufactured those skids on site late last week, and I've been in contact with them. They are starting to mobilize preservation methods right now. By the end of the week, they'll be preserving what they can. And then they've already come out to make some assessments of damage on what needs to be repaired. And they believe that they can get the systems back up and online and operating within about a 2-month time frame. However, that does not include permanent repairs to the filter skids. That just will get us back online.
So again, for the benefit of the public, when you tell the public that there's all of a sudden part of the process of creating our great drinking water is not there, can you explain to them what that process is, what they're missing by not having it?
Yeah, I can continue.
Reverse osmosis.
So the reverse osmosis process is a special type of filter technology that removes hardness and salts from the water. Our water is potable and safe without this process. It's just a hard water. So you will see all the items that go along with having harder water.
Sure.
It will taste a little bit different if you have a keen sense of taste, and you will see a bit more buildup of hardness on your faucets until we get our process back online.
But no other cleaning mechanism.
Nothing else.
We're not giving anybody,
Nothing else. It is perfectly safe,
Weird
potable
stuff in the
drinking
water.
water. It meets EPA requirements, and we still maintain that it is safer than bottled water.
Okay, and I want to commend you, Paul, for contacting our breweries. I mean, we do have these breweries here because we have the best drinking water in the state of Florida. I mean, people think it was just a business thing. No, it's because we have great water. And then finally, I've been asked this, we've just got done doing a $25 million upgrade, give or take $1 million or $2 million. To the plant, so most of this stuff was new, was it not?
That's correct.
So I think that's important for people to know. It wasn't that we had, let the plant go.
No, we had brand new water producing stuff, and in a few months, or up to 6 months or more, we'll have brand new stuff again.
Again.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a good point.
Yeah, because I mean, we spent the last, 4 years working on this? Well, and Dave was here when he was the one that brought it up. We need to remodel we need to do a master plan for our water department, and we did. And I think we're up to 27 or 28 million actually now, probably.
We're actually, with the design and everything else, we're closer to $32 million.
Yeah, so that's pretty impressive. And now we're in the process of doing that for our wastewater plant.
Right.
So
impressive, yet a punch in the gut. I mean,
yeah, well, exactly.
We're just finishing up. We were at the 99% completion when this happened. So it's very painful for us personally to see and witness. So.
And I'm sorry that happened for you guys, because I know you guys worked really hard on this. Okay, well, thank you for all of your efforts. Thanks for the update. I think, Jennifer, did you have any closing?
I do, Mayor, if I may. First of all, I'm just grateful that nobody was injured. Not only our water plant employees, but also the firefighters who responded. And I want to convey to staff how proud I am of all of them and their reaction to this water plant fire, including communications and getting the word out as quickly as possible. And we'll continue to communicate with our residents and issue regular progress reports as well. And I also want to thank our neighboring cities who sent their first responders and their units to help us extinguish the fire. It was extinguished relatively quickly. And then the next day, as far as I know, reached out to us and offered any aid that they had. So I'm grateful to them as well. And I will send a letter to their city managers thanking them for their response. But we will, this is obviously very serious.
Yeah.
It genuinely is. And to have our reverse osmosis down for a period of time and repairs for a year. I mean, our employees are going to be in modular units for up to a year, as well our water plant employees.
Because of the administration building?
Yes, yeah. Up to a year, is that
Well,
correct? or no?
actually, things have changed since since Thursday. So
Oh,
that
good.
was
New
the
update.
initial.
That's
That was
good.
the initial plan. And once again, we've been working hard, working all weekend, providing temporary power for different parts of our processes. Servpro has come in and they're like ants. They're just all over the place, and they're doing a great job of cleaning. We've already restored some power to the administration building. We are waiting on them. We're hopeful by the end of the week, if not the first of next week, we'll get the okay from them and the industrial hygienist that came out to actually re-inhabit that space and have it fully powered.
Thank
So,
God.
yes.
Well, I'm very glad I was wrong. then.
Because
Yeah.
you want to be right there. I mean, you don't want to be off somewhere else or in a parking lot where you have to walk a long way to get.
Absolutely, and at this point in time, we talk about SCADA and our different controls and things, that everything is in manual. So slowly but surely, as we bring the different processes up and we can get the administration back online, we can start reestablishing a lot of those connections and getting back to at least a new normal anyway of the temporary and the temporary permanent processes that we're going to do to get back up and running.
Awesome.
Also, I forgot to mention, of course, our own fire department, our first
course.
responders, who, I mean, it's, rolling up on a fire like that is, I'm sure, a real heart pounder, if you will.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to them for all that they did, and I thank you for your time, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great job. Okay, now's the time for citizen input. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to any item that's not already on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, you'll get a chance to speak to it when it comes up. Welcome.
I guess that leaves me.
Welcome. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Howard Gray, 1617 Brook Drive without an E. And thank you for your time this morning. I'm going to touch on a subject that I know it might be a little bit touchy because it's your pet project, Mayor.
My pet project. Uh-oh.
One of your many pet projects.
Yeah, which one?
Jerry Lake.
Yes.
So I'd love Jerry Lake. It's a beautiful lake up there. The issue is that at the north end of that lake there is a dam, a man-made dam. Mm-hmm. So at some point it was not Jerry Lake. It was probably a swamp with lots of cypress trees in it, which is also very good. My concern is that as we see in all of the little lawsuits we get over people tripping on sidewalks, that owning property brings with it liability. And so owning Jerry Lake brings the liability of owning a large dam with a lot of water behind it. And that could cost this city many millions of dollars if it were to ever break, particularly if it broke right in the middle of a hurricane. I think you all remember the flooding that we had on 580 down where the pawn shop is. That's Jerry Lake Creek that goes through there. So just imagine what that would be like if the dam burst. So the other flip side of that is this property is owned by Swift Mud right now. And I don't think anyone is concerned that Swift Mud might want to build something like a Busch Gardens water park with jet skis in it. I don't think that's a realistic issue. So unless there's some really good reason to purchase this property, it seems to me much better if Swift Mud owns the liability for that dam and continues to maintain it, because it's not free to maintain something like that. and we get to look at it, which is what we're primarily interested in doing. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I'm still working on the rewrite of the resolution dealing with all your advisory committees. I know you'll be excited to see that, and I appreciate your time and consideration on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. I will just say that, Jennifer, if you will obviously ensure that that dam gets reviewed by our experts.
Absolutely.
Purchasing it has ultimately been our goal. But even with a management agreement with Swift Mud, we would be required to maintain the property. So if we're going to pay to maintain it, I think that's the question. We're not, I also want to just say we're not intending to just look at the lake. We're intending to use it for non-motorized watercraft, if you will, kayaks, canoes, piers for fishing, and possibly even boardwalks around the lake at some future time when that money might be available, kind of like what you see at Brooker Creek. So there's going to be active use of the lake in the future over time, kind of like how we've developed Hammock. But we still don't even know. Howard's probably seen that on the, I guess it's the 21st, there's a tentative agenda with the purchase of the lake on there. But we're not even sure if that's actually, it's a placeholder at this point.
Correct.
So it's not a for sure thing.
Correct.
There are still active conversations going on. So there'll either be a purchase or there'll be a management agreement at some point.
Correct. For transparency's sake, Mayor, if I
Sure.
may, I'd rather it's on the agenda for the 21st and the public sees it than to have a start item, later on.
Right,
So,
right. So anyway, Howard, thank you so much for the feedback, and we will definitely ask Jorge and his team to, go take a look at it and give us your assessment, because I do remember flooding on 580, so.
But I'm going to assume if we're doing maintenance, we're going to have liability for a lot, that kind of thing anyway.
if we own it.
So it's, if we own it and if we're in charge of maintenance, we don't do the maintenance appropriately.
Right, if we don't do the maintenance.
Right,
then
I'm
we're
just
still
saying that
liable.
could be an either or, so I don't know.
Right.
It's a good point to make sure we understand all the ins and outs.
It
of
is, and I appreciate your comment.
Yeah.
But if I can say something, maintenance of invasive species is a little different than a different kind of maintenance.
Right,
So you've
maintenance
gotta
to a
make-
dam.
You've got to make that kind of distinction.
Right.
If that's the road
This is
we
one
go
more
down.
thing on
If
Jorge's.
that's the road you go down, you've got to,
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, that's an important,
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, because it is a stormwater, it's a lake that is used for stormwater, so other governments are using that lake for drainage.
yes.
So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. But yeah, let's look at you're calling it a weir, not a dam? Okay, let's take a look at the weir. All right. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak to any item that is not already on the agenda? Okay, let's see if we can move a little quicker now. Citizen input, or I just did that, sorry. Consent agenda, we have the approval of minutes for August 10th, August 17th, and August 19th. We have the board and committee appointments to the Veterans Advisory Committee. We have increase in the purchase order amount for $64,700 for contracted services for Waste Pro for mixed recyclables. We have the amendment to the Dunedin Fish Market for the addition of the wonderful new deck on the back of Old Bay. Any items to be pulled?
Yes, Mayor, can we pull 2C, please, recyclables?
The recyclables? Okay. All right, can I have a motion to approve a consent agenda with everything except recyclables?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, so that is Commissioner Kynes and Commissioner Torga. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And then we'll turn it over to Bill and Paul. Did you just have a question?
A quick summary of what got us to this point and what we're doing.
Sure, absolutely. I could do that. I could be very brief with a summary. Good morning, Bill Pickram, Division Director, City of Dunedin, Solid Waste and Recycling. The city is currently in the 5th year of a 5-year contract with Waste Pro for the weekly collections, transportation, and processing of its mixed recyclables for its residential recycling program. That 2017 contract was awarded at a yearly cost to the city of approximately $654,000. The contract is important to understand that it has a 2-part cost structure to it, composed of a fixed monthly collection fee plus a quarterly processing fee, which is variable. The monthly collection fee is simple. It's fixed. It's based on a per unit cost, and it's multiplied by the number of customers that we service curbside, which is approximately 13,275. The processing fee is a per ton variable cost established on the average market value of the materials or the recyclables collected. Processing fees are averaged quarterly and are reliant on how well the market performs. When I talk market, those are the buyers of the recyclable materials once they're sorted and sought after. That monthly average is assigned a cost or a payment to the city given in attachment B of the packet. Another important note on how the costs are structured is that in the agreement is that in addition to the processing of materials, of those curbside materials, city staff also delivers the recyclables that are collected at that are dropped off at our 2 recycling drop-off centers, and we transport those. City staff hauls those to a transfer yard that Waste Pro then transport to the MRF in Sarasota. So there's a lot at play in the movement of the materials, the cost of structure, how costs are structured. You have variables and you have variable costs and you have fixed costs. So really, in order to offset those yearly variable costs for processing, staff is requesting the authorization to increase the Waste Pro PO for the processing of those recyclable materials for additional $64,700 above the approved awarded amount done in 2017, which is, again, $654,000. With that, if there's any questions?
Yeah, what role does the quality of our recycling play in the market value of our recyclables?
A lot. It's really what we're doing is we're harvesting. Our residents are using their blue carts as it's mixed in there, and it's important that if they follow the guidelines that we establish, and we do a lot with education, outreach, and public awareness, because once contamination does kick in, it devalues your materials, if you will, and it causes a lot of disruption on the backside of it in the sorting plant as well. So it does have a lot. Where we're tracking now is with our program. The last analysis we did was with the county along with all the other municipalities. We're about 17-18% contamination rate. That changes. It changes throughout the year, but it does have a lot at play at that.
Okay, so that puts us at about a quality of about 83%, somewhere around there.
Approximately.
83%. Do we have a goal, or is there something that the market kind of, because it's going to be very challenging to get to 100%. There's always going to be some sort of contamination. So is there something in the recycling industry that indicates, yeah, we're 90% is really 100% because we'll never get more than that, or what is that target?
Well, our targets, it does constantly move. Cleaner the better. We'd like to be even better than 17-18% where we're currently at. Industry, to give you a little, industry average is in the mid-20s. So we're performing better than what we're doing in industry average. Pinellas, we're a little bit different. So the goal is, my goal would like to be, below 15 if I had to throw out a number, but it's kind of evolving. The challenge we have in Pinellas is we're kind of structured with our own programs. We're trying to get unified, where we're all on the same script. You could be in Dunedin and you can understand what we're collecting in Dunedin. There might be a slight difference in what you're seeing in Clearwater, if you will, Safety Harbor. So we're still working with the county on a lot of other things at play for our recycling program, but getting everybody on the same script of music when it comes to contamination is the big part. And I hope I kind of gave some color to that picture to answer your question.
You did. Where does the county stand on building a MRF? The forever asking question.
I'll stay in my lane and try to be brief. There's a lot.
No editorial
Brief but brilliant.
comments.
You got it, you got it. We're still having those discussions. It's evolving. There's a lot at play, meaning that right now what we're hearing from the county is to get us our opinions or what direction we want from the municipalities, and that's channeled through the TMC, the Technical Management Committee group that I sit in on. The county is evaluating a couple of options. One of them is to build a MRF and have our own recycling center, sorting recycling center in ourselves to work inside the county, or a transfer station where they would build a transfer station for us, and then we would move those materials to another MRF outside the county. Third option, which is...
And I'm just going to interject, we've been begging them.
Oh my
And,
God.
the mayor's council sent a letter, we've sent a letter. We've been pretty, just so you know.
Oh, well, that's why I was kind of reserving editorial comments, because I think we all know whose court that ball is in.
It's ongoing.
Sure, just little pressure never hurts. How about the city of Clearwater? Because I know at one time they were thinking of a MRF, and then they weren't, and then maybe they were. Not that would impact us at all, but it would certainly, in my mind, impact the decision from the county, given the size of Clearwater, and if they go off and do their own.
You're right. Good point. And what is interesting, they sit in on the, they have a seat within the TMC as well, because the last discussion we had on this is we need to explore everything. We need to explore, can a stronger partnership be with a private enterprise in Pinellas County or another municipality who's also looking to get into that game, whether they're looking to transfer or whether they're looking to be in a sorting factory itself, a MRF. So a lot of it is at play, and everything's being discussed, open, but we're talking CIP, large CIP projects. And that's where we're trying to keep it at an elevation, is what do we want? But the end of it is what can we afford, and what are we willing to pay? So those are kind of the things that factor that's kind of making this still a big picture project.
Well, and the cost and what we're willing to pay is a big major factor in what we do with our recycling, which is one of the reasons why I had this poll, just to have this type of conversation. That, to my mind, we don't really have it enough. Contamination still seems to be a major player, and I just know that we all grew up with our dads putting their nails and screws in empty baby food jars, and there was all kinds of, we started this whole recycling thing, but recycling was always the end result. The first one was reduce, and then there was recycle, or reduce and reuse. And we just, as a society, we've kind of stopped the reduction and the reuse. I mean, all kind of, once single stream came about, it was just throw it all in, because sorters are miraculous machines that easily will throw out the contamination, but we're finding that's not necessarily the case. So I just wanted to encourage all the residents to really take reducing seriously, repurposing, reusing, reducing.
Show your bottle.
Show your bottle. The city is now, we have a Fill It Forward campaign, where you get a bottle and you get a sticker. And the idea is every time you refill your bottle, you scan it in, and that's an indication of the number of plastic bottles that you're not using by doing this sort of program. So I'm really proud that the city's doing this. I've already inquired to see if we couldn't get it citywide and then maybe measure it, how many residents, just what is the city, what are we doing as a community? I think it's fabulous. If you're not doing this and involved in a refill it campaign, just having some sort of hydration flask or anything that.
Mayor with the cup.
Just as long as you're doing this, all kinds of problems. Also, please, as all the residents, contact your local elected officials, contact the county, state, and even federal legislators to talk about our corporations have to start, because it's also, everything is being pushed to the end user, and it's up to the citizens of the United States to try and solve this problem, and it's allowing the producers of all this to really get off scot-free. So we need to have all players involved in this, all our corporations involved in trying to solve this really, really terrible issue. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner.
This is very brief and brilliant, for once. You know what? We've been talking about this MRF for how many years? 20? 25? whatever. You know what? I think with ARPA, I think this is the time is hot now that we could do a coalition for the MRF.
With
I think-
if that infrastructure bill, I was just thinking the same thing, Jennifer.
So ARPA, I think that would give us a way in, and then we're going to pick our entity partners. But I think we might make it under the American Rescue Plan.
Or if that infrastructure bill passes. Absolutely, that's a big if they can get their stuff together up there in Washington. You know, Barry's been talking about partnerships with all this money that's coming out. Now, obviously, you know, all of us small cities are just, but even if we had to add 50 cents to the solid waste bill for everybody, you know what I'm saying? Or I mean, we need to start really thinking creatively, because it's just costing way too much.
Yeah.
You know, if it,
I don't know why it wouldn't fit under ARPA.
but I think we need
From what
to,
I've read, I do not understand, if we're going to do septic to sewer, why that wouldn't work.
well, and that's a possibility. We're going to talk about
I know
that
we're
very
going to be
shortly.
talking about it, but I'd like to, I'm just giving notice that I really want to look at that under the ARPA.
And I think we should, Jennifer, put together, you know, maybe when you go to your city manager lunch, your monthly thing, and maybe put together some bullet point ideas to send to Barry. But, you know, they also have competing interests. They want to burn everything because they make money on burning everything. And if they burn the recyclables, they're going to make more money. You know, so there is competing interests there. And that's not to be negative towards the county, but it's just a fact. And we have to be aware of that fact. So I think we need to jump back on this thing. We went over to COVID and kind of.
Well, I do know that the county is, with their ARPA funding, is really looking to one-and-done type projects that don't carry legacy costs. And of course, a MRF would carry a legacy cost, but.
Except it gets paid for by an enterprise fund.
Right.
So it's not general fund property taxes. So that's a whole different, in my mind, a whole different animal.
Right, yeah. Yeah, certainly we will.
Any other comments or feedback?
No, but I do think, you know, if we're talking about the county and their, you know, their ARPA money, I mean, just staying in touch with, I think, what Commissioner Eggers was talking about the other day, some of their input sessions and making sure we're at the table every time.
Yep.
Other than that, no, I don't have anything to add.
Jennifer, would you make a note to maybe get Nicole or somebody to let us know to monitor when their public input sessions are?
Sure.
Obviously, we'll have our own conversations, but I think it would be good to hear what everybody has to say, too.
Sure.
Yeah, and you know, I've been meaning to ask this, and since you guys are going on, I'm just going to add it. I've been meaning, you know, our consultant, I think, is the consultant for the county as well.
Yes.
And I asked the question to Commissioner Eggers the other day, but I just would be interested to understand of their $189 million, how that formulates and calculates in terms of unincorporated versus countywide. If there is, maybe there isn't. I just kind of
Maybe
would love to understand how
our
that.
consultant can answer that question shortly.
Our consultant is in the room.
Yes. Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay. Commissioner Kynes,
Second.
Vice Mayor, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so we've got a couple of issues this morning. Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioner Kynes has to be out of here by noon to catch a plane. And we have a number of people here to speak to, a number of businesses here to speak to the American Recovery Acting. So I'm going to move, if nobody has a problem, Jennifer's aware, I'm going to move some things around to make sure certain things get covered in case Deborah has to leave.
That's fine.
Okay.
Fine with me.
So, we have under our workshop items, the American Rescue Plan Act update. So I'd like to go right to that, so we can maybe move some people through here and they don't have to sit.
Right.
So if our folks will come forward.
Come on up, Les.
Jennifer, is there anybody on Zoom we have to promote?
There is, yes. I have
Okay.
Matthew Hansen, and I will promote him. It's been a while on Zoom. I'm losing my touch.
I know. When I saw it, I was like, oh, God, another Zoom. Okay, so in going into this, I just, Jennifer and I were talking about it, and obviously we're going to get an overview. We are going to get some recommendations. There is one item that that has some immediate attention required. It's time sensitive. Workshop items tend to be more consensus direction. So we feel, and discussing with Nikki and everything, whatever we determine today or don't determine, we can take an actual vote on Thursday. So it gives you a little time to think it through. Just to make sure that nobody's being put under the gun under a workshop item, we try to be consistent about voting versus consensus.
Will it be this Thursday?
Yes. You won't be here?
Well, I mean, I have moved heaven and earth to be flying in and
All
get
right,
here.
well, don't worry about it. We'll put it at the end of the meeting.
Well, she doesn't want me to come in. She said if I'm late, just don't, because I would be messing up evidentiary hearings. So, I mean,
But we have a time sensitivity. I don't know that it would, well, let's see how the conversation goes.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, and anybody here to speak to it, and I know there are a few people to speak to it, you don't have to come back on Thursday. Now's the time to do what you're going to do. And okay, so having said that, Jennifer, you were waiting for your comments till
Yes.
later on.
Yeah, we'll start with Les, and I'll have an opportunity.
Okay. You're on, Les.
Great. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Les Tyler, the Finance Director. I'm also here with Ashley Kempton, our Budget Manager. And I would like to introduce Matthew Urchel, who's the Project Executive for Widow Bryan, who's with us today. He is a resident of Florida. He actually resides in Sarasota, Florida. And we also have Matthew Hansen, Senior Advisor to Widow Bryan, who is with us on Zoom today. So we have both of them here to help us and assist us with technical questions that may come up today. Starting with the agenda, the goal today is to go through an overview of the American Rescue Plan 2021, talk about expenditure categories and what's eligible, and also discuss some projects that we feel are currently eligible that we work through with Widow Bryan. We have other projects that we're still working through with Widow Bryan that we'll discuss a little bit too, that are not being focused on today, and then community engagement for the American Rescue Plan Act, and then next steps.
So what we're going to do also, because I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions, Jennifer and I agreed we would like to let them make their presentation and get through all their feedback because they have a lot of different pieces to cover, and then ask our questions. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is an overview of the American Rescue Act Plan Act. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Just on a high level, it was signed on March 11, 2021. It was a $1.9 trillion aid package in total. There's funding of $656 billion for direct financial assistance, for stimulus checks and other type of benefits. I'm going to walk through most of these quickly, and because the main focus is the last one, which is the state and local. There's $56 billion assistance for individuals and families, $211 billion for education and child care, $86 billion for health, $40 billion for transportation, $61 billion for other programs, and then the one, again, we're going to focus on today is the $350 billion for state and local governments fiscal recovery fund. This slide is focusing on the state and local, just a few things on that program. It provides $350 billion for state and local governments, as just mentioned. Cities and counties portion was about $132 billion. Pinellas County's allocation that was just mentioned is $189.3 million, and the city of Dunedin's allocation is expected to be $18.3 million. I just want to mention we've not received our first payment yet. We expected any day. We thought it was going to come last Friday, but we are expecting any day for our first half payment. For state and local recovery funds, a few items to focus on. First, the grant funding will be released in 2 payments. As I mentioned, the first payment we expect any day, and the second payment should take place exactly 1 year after the first payment, per the Treasury guidance. The funds may be incurred or obligated by December 31st, 2024, and December 31st, 2026 is the period of performance end date, And this is the deadline to complete all projects and have all expenditures, incurred for the grant in order to have it reimbursed. Local governments, including cities, are required to provide periodic reports to the Treasury, and those reports just got extended, actually. The reports were supposed to be due on October 31st, and that's been extended to April 30th, 2022. That just came out a couple days ago, so we have a few more months for our first reporting. There's six categories that are, these are high-level categories that are in the ARPA, State and Local Government Recovery Fund. And I'll briefly go over these, and then we'll have more detail on these in the slides behind it. Support public health expenditures is the first one. Next is address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. Serving the hardest hit communities and families. Replace public sector lost revenue. Provide premium pay for essential workers. And then the last is the investment in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. These next few slides are going to briefly go over a little bit more, not in any real detail, a little bit more of these six categories. The first category is support public health expenditures. This is to respond to COVID-19 and the broader health impacts from COVID-19. When using these funds under this category, the recipient must identify a need or negative impact of the COVID-19 public health emergency, and also identify how the program or service or other intervention addresses the identified need and impact. A couple of examples of this category would be COVID-19 testing, COVID-19 vaccinations, COVID-19 contact tracing, personal protective equipment falls under this, mental health services, and also substance abuse services. Those are some examples that fall under that category. For category 2, this is to address the negative economic impact caused by the public health emergency. In direct response to the economic impact of COVID-19, ARPA funds may be used by local governments to provide expansive assistance to individuals, households, small businesses, and impacted industries. It's to aid, it can provide aid to unemployed workers, job training, assistance to households that face food, housing, or other financial insecurities, support for tourism, travel, and hospitality. A few examples in this category include aid to nonprofit organizations, household assistance, food programs, and aid to other impacted industries. For the third category, this is serving the hardest hit communities and families. Funds can be used to address the disproportionate public health and economic impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on the hardest hit communities, populations, and households. Under this section, local governments may provide unique support or services within the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Qualified Census Tract to families living in qualified census tract areas, households, or geographical areas. Some examples of this category would be education assistance, healthy childhood development, healthy childhood environment. Another is housing support, affordable housing, and other housing assistance type projects. The next is replacing lost public sector revenue. Local governments can calculate its losses in revenue and provide that computation to the extent of the reduction in the revenue. This is done by comparing the actual revenue to an alternative representative of what could have been expected to occur in the absence of pandemic. The Treasury specifies that any reduction in actual revenue relative to the expected trend can be presumed to be due to COVID-19 public health emergency. We've talked about this, the lost revenue during our 22 budget meetings quite a bit, and we have included an estimated revenue loss category in our general fund, marina fund, gas tax funds, and penny fund. So we've done estimated calculations, and we'll be doing the actual calculations every year from 2020 through 2023. But our current estimates in our 22 budget, just want to mention, are $4.2 million of estimated revenue recovery that we have at this time in our 22 budget. Slide number 5 is, item number 5 is to provide premium pay for essential workers. This is recognizing the continuous work of essential workers during the pandemic. These funds can be used for premium pay directly to employees that are deemed essential, and also to private employers for essential workers who were or are physically present at their jobs. An example here would be public sector employees deemed essential by our city, and also private sector employers such as pharmacy workers or healthcare workers, for example. The next is investment in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Funds can be used for water and sewer infrastructure projects. This area is pretty broad for water and sewer projects. The projects should align with, to be eligible with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund eligibilities and the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund eligibility requirements. For broadband investments, the infrastructure should provide at least 100 megabytes per second symmetrical standard, and may be only in areas that are unserved or underserved. And there's some specific wording on that may be discussed more later. Some examples in this category would be clean water and clean drinking projects are fairly broad, as I mentioned. For broadband projects, it would be projects that need to meet the household or business needs sufficient to enable users to generally meet and support simultaneously use of work, education, and health applications, and sufficiently be robust enough to meet the increasing household demands for bandwidth. So those are the categories, and these are some specific items that the Treasury has said are ineligible. These are very clear in the guidance. They do not want us to use funds to offset a reduction in taxes or deposits, nothing related to pension funds, no funding for debt service, and not towards legal settlements or judgments, and also not towards deposits into a rainy day fund or financial reserves. They don't want you to put the money in reserves and not spend it. That's the basis there. This slide is put out by the Treasury, and it's kind of, I thought it was helpful information to at least walk through. It's some things to consider from their viewpoint. State and local governments when determining how to spend and use these funds. First is, use dedicated grants and programs whenever possible. State and local fiscal recovery funds, use these funds for gaps and priorities not eligible for other federal and state assistance programs. Use revenue loss funding category last for priorities not eligible either under the other 5 programs. And I want to mention that, the revenue recovery is the most flexible funding source. Those dollars you can generally spend on generally most things in the funds, whether it's general fund or some other fund. So those dollars are very flexible, and that's why they're making that comment. Want to assess governmental operations and community needs. Look for areas where funding has not been previously found. Transformative and catalytic community projects with broad public need and support. Consider projects in partnership with Pinellas County and other partners. Use existing programs and partnerships already established. Use this one-time funding for one-time expenses as much as possible. And also, analyze, of course, and fit with our city commission business plan and priorities. And now I'm going to turn over to the city manager for some comments.
Thank you, Les. So before we drill down into some of the projects that we're considering or that are eligible for ARPA funding, I want to provide a framework of exactly where we are now and where we would like to go moving forward. The projects that you're about to see are formulated by the department directors. They are all eligible projects that have been vetted by Wood O'Brien as well. So we brought Wood O'Brien, as you know, in as a third-party administrator to aid us with eligibility and administration of this funding, this $18.3 million. We're in the very early stages of developing this program. As you know, it was approved in March, and there was, at first, the legislation was very confusing as far as what was eligible and what was not. So first of all, we needed to focus on what, on clarifying what expenditures were eligible under this program, and then establish those expenditures. And most of them are already in our business plan, which is actually a very good thing. This plan needs to be predicated upon a very comprehensive effort to get public input. And so to that end, we will be going to the public. We already have one meeting scheduled on November 9th. we want 3 meetings. We'll have one in the morning, which will be focused on our businesses, but we'll also invite the public. We'll try to get that early for our hospitality industry and before our retailers open their shops. And also for those who may not want to travel or go out at night. We'll have one in the afternoon for our not-for-profits as well, and we will tailor that after our aid organizations. We already have a framework in place for that. And then we also will have one in the evening for those who are not available during the day. So 3 public input sessions. We'll gather up all of those comments, and we're going to really tailor our program after the city of St. Pete because they're ahead of us. They received their funding ahead of us. They're a much larger city. And they've already held, I think, 4 public input sessions. And what they did essentially was put their eligible projects in buckets and said, this is the type of project that we're looking at. This could be covered by ARPA funding. Are there other projects or associated projects that you, the public, would like to see? So we would need to give them, kind of guidelines as far as what's eligible and what's not, and get that public input. And as I said, we'll gather all that, put it before the City Commission, and then we need to come back to all of you, outside of a formal vote or anything like that, to solicit your input on the ARPA funding. We will put the program together and return to you at the end of January. We need to be very systematic and methodical about what it is that we're doing. The program, once we put together the program, it's going to be very similar to the penny fund that you approve as part of your budget process every year for the list of projects. But these projects are going to impact penny, and they may impact general fund, and they may impact our enterprise funds as well. So we need to bring you the whole picture about what the program looks like. The projects before you today that are eligible could take up the entire penny. And so there may be portions of these projects that you would like to fund via ARPA and in other manners and those types of things. So right now this is just an example of where we're going and the types of projects that are eligible. But as I said, we need to get that public input and then put together the entire program for all of you. So I think that after today, our next step is going to be that public input process, and we will, we send out a poll to all of you whether or not you're available. These will be town hall types of meetings as well. So that said, as Les had commented, we don't have the funding yet, and I did see an article in the newspaper that municipalities are not spending the funding. We are. I mean, we're taking good positive steps forward. To focus on our program, to focus on what's eligible, and then to establish the projects that are in the greater public interest and that reach the maximum number of your residents and business owners as well, predicated upon their input. So that said, Mayor, we can move on to the projects unless you have any questions on that.
I won't. The only thing that surprised me with the approach at the workshop is that there weren't like what I would consider kind of baseline things that are eligible. Like we've been told streets and brick streets are eligible, but nothing. There's other underground piping for water sewer eligible, nothing. So it just seems like we've got these really kind of more jazzy projects, and I don't want to get lost in that. And then we've got this whole area where it's actually coverable, but we haven't talked about it yet. And it just seems like we could get ahead of ourselves if we're not careful.
And that's what I was going to say, Jennifer. For the purpose of this discussion is these are just examples. They're just examples of things that you just randomly took out. They're not necessarily recommendations. We're not here to even give any kind of consensus direction on any of the projects that you have listed. It's just trying to show you some of the things.
That's correct. The only timely item here is the special events.
Right.
The others are timely in that we need to establish what those projects are by the end of January, so we can move forward with expenditures. But that's going to be part of the whole process. These projects are not, your point is very well taken, Commissioner. A lot of those are covered, as you know, already in different funds. And are in some of our long-range plans. So when I said that we would bring the entire program to you, it's if we take paving out of penny, what does penny look like, right? And add it in ARPA. For example, Les will go over, we have $2.8 million for improvements to the golf course. We are not recommending the $2.8 million, but it's an example of the type of project that you can fund under ARPA.
So can I ask a point of procedure? because we know that we have one time-sensitive thing, which is with the merchants, can we just go ahead and do that and then look at, because what you're giving is a laundry list with one that's very time-sensitive.
I wouldn't say, Commissioner, that it's very time sensitive, and we need to give notice to, the promoters, the profit and not-for-profit, that the city commission is interested in that seeding, in that seed funding. There are a couple coming up in November, but, they're already scheduled. So, but, we just need an
There
indication
could
from
be
the city commission.
there could be retroactivity if we decided to do it.
Yes.
So you can
Yes.
make it retroactive so that it covers the broad scope.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so why don't we just let Les finish the thing, and then we can talk through the whole special event thing.
Okay. As Jennifer mentioned, these are projects that, as of last week, that working with Widow O'Brien, that we've worked together and deemed these are eligible. And I want to mention, as Jennifer said, we're working on projects every day with them, and these are just kind of a cutoff. Another one just came up yesterday that's eligible that I'll mention is the Skinner project. So that's eligible. So I just thought, that's not on the list, but that just we came up yesterday in working with Matthew Hansen, who's on Zoom. So the ones that we have today that are eligible are special events just mentioned, or affordable housing, workforce housing project, Clearwater Ferry Service contributions, downtown Looper service, septic to sewer connection program, broadband fiber optic and Wi-Fi project, Highlander pool replacement, and the golf course capital improvements. And the first one is the special events assistance, and what I would like to do is turn this over to Vince Gizzi, the Director of Parks and Recreation, to go over this item in more detail. Also want to mention that in the staffing report, attachment 1 is a memo from the Parks and Rec Department with some more information on this item. Vince?
Thank you, Les, and good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners. Vince Gizzi, Parks and Recreation Director. And it's also great to see several of our promoters in the audience. We haven't had a chance to work with them for a while, and Jory Peterson's here also, our special event coordinator, and I know she's been keeping very much in touch with all of our nonprofit and profit organizations. So one of the funding, and I just changed the word recommendations to examples, but one of the funding examples is to support our event promoters by providing them with ARPA funds. At the city manager's direction, city staff is looking into assisting our event promoters financially during fiscal year 22. And for the last couple of years, we know that the event promoters have been struggling, and this is something that we feel would help jumpstart their events and activities and help get them started again. The assistance would be for historic events only and not new events. So in other words, the events had to take place at least once before. And most of them, the last time we were doing events was in 2019. The recommended assistance would be for both nonprofit, and for-profit organizations. And if you look at attachment 1, or attachment A, actually, in the staffing, you'll see a list of all of the different funding that we're recommending for the promoters. That's all complete list in attachment A. Funding recommendations would be based on last actual costs from 19, as I mentioned, and they include city costs, which would be from parks, fire, streets, public services, solid waste, et cetera, and also the sheriff costs. So we broke it down into city costs and sheriff's cost. Funds can be used for any and all event expenses, which should still include paying back city and sheriff's costs. We're also looking at, staff is also requesting that for fiscal year 22, the city self-promoted special events expenditures are included, and that would be for entertainment and operations such as our holiday events, our holiday boat parade, old-fashioned Christmas, downtown trick-or-treating, et cetera. And if you go to the next slide, Ashley, there it is. This is just very high level here, but in your packet, again, attachment A are all the events and how it's broken down. And then we even have it broken down further than what's on the attachment A, more into the detail. So for the nonprofit organizations, the city expenses overall are $75,700, sheriff's $48,400 for a total of $124,100, And then you go to the second line for profit businesses, 65,000. For city costs, 47, and this is all total, and then 109.6 for both combined. And then the city events, these are our self-initiated events, 145,700 for city cost, 23.3 for sheriff's cost, for a total of 169. So the total we're asking for, or we'd be looking for, recommending, or the total example is 402,700. So with that, I could answer questions, or we can continue to move on.
Is that the end of the presentation?
For the special events,
Just for
yes.
special
For
events.
special events? All right, maybe we'll take this piece now then, just to get through it. Questions for Vince?
Just really quick, Vince, one thing. The proposed funding, is that a total of the city and the sheriff or not?
The proposed funding is a total of both, yes. There's the column for the city, the sheriff, and then we totaled it up for the bottom line in the last column.
Okay, it doesn't necessarily add up though, right? Exactly. At least in one, I was just curious.
It should add up. If you add up the nonprofits, profits, and city events, it should add up to 402.7.
The only one that's off is the 2,500.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yes, I'm sorry. Laney just reminded me. The Suncoast Brotherhood, which is a for-profit organization that do our motorcycle toy run, they already get 2,500 from aids to private organizations, so we did deduct that. So I have it on my sheet listed as a note, so you were absolutely correct.
Very
It's off by
minor.
$2,500.
Just minor, I didn't take the time to go through and add all of that up. And so when you're presenting this, then that's counting both of those segments, both whatever the city requirements are and the sheriff's requirements?
Yes.
Just so I understood that, because at one point in time, it almost sounded like they would have to pay for the sheriff. But they're going to get reimbursed for the sheriff.
Yes, we would, their check would include the sheriff cost and the city cost, and then they still would have to pay the sheriff from the money that we
But they get
give
the
them.
money from us.
Right, and that's, I believe, a requirement of the way this grant works. Instead of, it makes it easier and I guess better accounting if we write the checks and then they pay the bills.
Thank you.
And Jennifer, I believe on that particular subject, that these are estimated based on last year, or 2019. So there can be, some variation. This is just the best guess estimate of what it's going to be.
And this is all the events. One or two may not occur. And so,
Right.
So, and also, as you know, the mayor had prompted me to reach out to the sheriff to see if there's a discount on there. Sometimes there is for city events, so that might be incorporated in this as well.
And also in 19, there were a couple events that were 2 days, so we did take into account that the event may be 1 day in 22, so we wouldn't give them the money for a 2-day event.
And then my second question, Vince, is principally what this is doing is allowing these organizations who have been taken a severe hit, gives them the opportunity to get themselves balanced up with us supporting their activities for just this 1 year.
Yes.
And so they can build up their assets a little bit and their strength and come back and continue to do what they've been doing for us. Thank you.
I was clicking right along until you said, so if it's a 2-day event, you're giving them 1 day?
If it's a 2-day event and they're only doing 1 day,
Okay, I gotcha. If it's a 2-day event,
and they change to just a 1-day event,
but
then
if it's a 2-day event,
2 days.
they'll get, okay, thank you.
Questions?
No, I like what I see.
Questions?
WOD Wars. I mean, it sounds familiar, but
I have no idea.
I do
had
not
no
recall what
idea
the heck that
was.
is.
It's a CrossFit event. It's an athletic event that's done at the Great Lawn.
That's why, because I don't know.
Yeah. You're not going to see me doing that.
But have they done it?
Yes.
How many, was there 1 year, 2 years?
Jury, about 4 years?
Oh, I apologize to them, because,
Workout of the day, WOD, workout of
oh, okay, well, okay. All right, I am educated. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out why we would do American craft endeavors. Like, because, I mean, even when the city used to cover some of these costs way back, I mean, we never did them. I mean, not that they're them, I mean, they're important to us, but trying to figure out why we would do them.
You want to
Because
answer that question, Jennifer? We had the same dialogue.
Okay, yeah, I just.
Go ahead, and I'll fill in.
They do pay us, for the use of closing down the streets and on Main Street mostly, and so they do pay those fees, and they also pay the sheriff's cost, and they do bring a lot of tourism into our city.
Do we have any
And this
reason
is-
to think they're going to stop, though? I've heard they're clamoring to, they want to do it, Why would we? I mean, I understand jump-starting our businesses. I'm just not sure I understand jump-starting a big group like that that's clamoring to get back in and get going. And, I mean, if we do them, why wouldn't we do the farmer's market? I mean, why wouldn't we start, that just seems a little bit of a stretch to me. I mean, we're not voting on it formally today, but
Right.
that seems a little bit of a stretch to me. In
Well,
terms.
if I may, Commissioner, the staff's approach to these special events was really not even looking at profit, not-for-profit. It was really difficult for us to say this event, not that event, then this event, not that event. And so we looked at it in terms of, the way that it's going to attract the tourism to the city. And certainly the American Craft Festival attracts probably more than all the other events, especially the number that they have. So that was really the genesis behind recommending all of them. If we have direction from the city commission to exclude, one, we can bring it back on Thursday, but we put all of the events in there.
I wouldn't tell them they've been put up for this, by the way, because it's a stretch.
Well, this
to
is
me.
also for 8 days. There's 4 days, or 2 days in each event time. It's 8 days, it's about $10,000 a weekend.
Yeah. We figure, the bang for
It's a
the buck, we
stretch to me.
figure
I'm
is,
just saying it's a stretch to me, the why we would include them.
And if I may, keep in mind that these are federal funds, and so there are some regulatory considerations, and equitable access is going to be one of those considerations. So any federal grant program, you can't really cherry pick. You really have to provide an equal opportunity. So you're going to have to take that into consideration. You could set up the grant criteria to be qualitative based, and then have a selection committee that determines who meets that criteria. But otherwise, you've got to kind of allow equal footing for everyone.
May I make a comment?
Well, then
to
what
that?
about, and I don't want to create a nightmare, but would the farmer's market under that circumstance not be? I mean, that's where we'd have to be careful, right?
That's right, but you would establish criteria, right? So if that's a reoccurring event, they may not meet the minimum barrier for it. This is a special event consideration, and that could be a twice a year or once a year. Farmers market may be a weekly or monthly event, so they may not meet the criteria.
But the craft's 4 times a year.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, which again, this is just the workshop, so I'd have to think about it, but it seems like a stretch to me. It'd be great to have criteria that didn't include them, to me, but maybe I just need to think through it a little bit more. My only other.
Hang on just one second. Commissioner Torga wanted to comment on that particular subject.
So, thank you very much, Mayor. So we have organizations here that are nonprofits. For example, we have a big event coming up this weekend, the triathlon, which has been for years and years here. By the Rotary Club, and we have some Scottish organization that's trying to get back into doing certain things that they would then have the opportunity to come and if they weren't included in this, to present themselves to be included. Or is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
well, I think that if I
Well,
may,
they're on the list,
our base criteria is that it's a historic event. It's occurred before. We're not looking at new
Correct.
events,
No,
right?
I'm talking about these are, a lot of these are previous events that have.
Right, but they are historic.
They're on the list. Rotary.
I'm just giving,
Yeah,
thank you, Mayor. I'm just giving an example so that if anybody's listening, they
Gotcha.
can, if they're not here.
This is the first time they've had it twice, though, in 1 year. See, they never had it in October before. They're trying to catch up. So this is the first time. It is a historic event, but to do it twice in 1 year is unusual.
Back to you, Commissioner.
So in principle, and I guess I'll ask this, I don't want to tick off animal people because they're, I used to be director of animal services. I know how they get. So again, the criteria was, when you include Oktoberfest and Mutt Madness, it's just how many people that brings into the city and creates kind of the furor of activity, thus fills our restaurants, et cetera.
Yes.
That's the principle. And I know they get some pretty good crowds.
Yes, and they do.
Yeah,
They do, both of those events do draw.
Good, so I don't have to
From the
take off any
outside,
people.
those events come from the
Yeah,
outside.
you know, I mean, I'm basically,
This time is for questions first.
okay.
Just questions.
I guess my only concern is, in principle, I like this. You know, it's nothing more than giving what we used to actually do, but we're trying to give it a kickstart. Is, by doing this early, does this in any way, I mean, what do you expect from other businesses that, you know, here we go, you know, there's a preference here for downtown and things like that. Do you worry about that? Do you think that this still makes sense? And I just kind of want to know your thought process.
I do, and we anticipated that, you know, as far as concentrating the downtown, that's where the events occur, the historic events occur as well, so.
Which anybody could start an event anywhere in the city at any time,
Correct.
but that hasn't been the case, so.
Correct, yeah.
But it's very similar, I would say, when you agree to the outdoor dining. Not everybody had the parking space or the street space to do outdoor dining.
Right, right. In this
So-
case, everybody's had lots of opportunities to do special events.
And-
These people have historic events.
And as we go through the public input process, because we're talking about nonprofit, regular, and maybe even a separate business meeting, we'll be talking about further ways to support businesses where some may, you know, even the what do you call it, facade program can be considerably increased. That's one option because it's improving a business to expand. So there are other opportunities to help many businesses. It's just, this is a time-sensitive thing.
Well, I mean, certainly our nonprofits, and it hugely helps, and then I know our businesses have had a lot of struggles, so it looks pretty good.
Okay, so we're going to open it up to public input. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to this piece of the item, the special event piece of it, so we can kind of move that off of the plate, please feel free and give us your name and address and business if you have one. And you'll have a clock right up here.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? First, I want to start by saying thank you all for your service. During all of this corona pandemic, we can't stress how much the city and our community have helped us get through to survive. We're very excited with Casatinas to be celebrating this coming January 30 years of business in Dunedin, which is just huge.
And congratulations on your Best of the Bay.
So just very quickly speaking about the special events, I just wanted to say if there is a time constraint on it, because I'm not really sure, that Day of the Dead is not happening again this year because Pioneer Park is under construction, so we were asked not to have it. And it is a huge, wonderful event for the downtown, so we just wanted you guys to have that into consideration for next year. And then I don't know how much funding that you have. I don't know if it's like a certain amount that you have to use for certain things. But if that is the case, if events were canceled for 2 years, maybe there's funding for 2 years. It's just for discussion for you guys. And finally, that does not have to do with this, but just to put a bug in your ear for the right moment, if there is money that you're trying to figure out what to do with it. One time, many years ago, I brought up the idea of cooling our downtown, and that's by adding more trees, shade structures, green walls, green roofing. So maybe there could be grants for businesses to put all these things in. It would be an amazing marketing thing for downtown to show that we are cooling off our downtown in times of global warming.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Tina from Casatina, sorry. And
I
I don't live in Dunedin, but
Day of the Dead is in October, which is why you can't do it this year. And I'm sure we can make a couple of week exception, given that it's our fault that it can't happen. Okay.
And I do think we need to cool our downtown.
Okay,
But it has to fit criteria, so, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
just
that's
saying,
obvious.
We were just cautioned about that, so
Yeah.
we have to be careful what we do.
Next person, please. Hello, Jason.
Good morning. Jason Seibert, 1756 Ranchwood Drive South, Dunedin, Florida. I stood before this commission, pretty close to this commission, 2 years ago, and the commission said, hey, we've got a pandemic. We need to shut down a big source of my yearly revenue. And I graciously accepted that, and so that's my responsibility as a citizen. And I appreciate all of you today taking that into account. Thank you very much. And the same happened the second year. I said, you know what? This is my responsibility as a citizen, too, to graciously support the leadership here that is trying to lead in a pandemic, which is unprecedented. So I appreciate what you've done over the past few years here. I'm further back, too, but thank you for your consideration for this, because it is a big deal, and it doesn't just support Flanagan's. You can talk to any of my staff. I'm very big about supporting my staff. Right now, I've got staff coming in on the weekends to clean in order to get enough hours, because numbers are down from, pre-pandemic numbers. So I mean, I'm doing everything I can on my end to make sure that not just myself, but my staff is taken care of. And I come out of pocket every year for so all the tips for St. Patty's Day go to my staff, and I come out of pocket for any other expenses, so that the tips are not distributed to volunteers or anything like that, because I want my staff to be taken care of, and that is my responsibility as a steward of them. So anyway, I appreciate y'all. Thank you. And
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, Walt.
Walt Whitman, Old Bay Cafe. I'd really like to thank you guys for considering this. Running these events is so risky, and it's just such a gamble with the weather, stone crab season. You don't know how many crabs they're going to catch. All these variables. And
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID, you don't know how that's going to affect the event. Even in this day and age, just everything going on. So you all considering this, we really appreciate it. And it's just one more example why Dunedin is such a great place to be in business. And I appreciate that. I'd also like to thank everyone involved with passing our amendment to our lease. The professionalism, speed was unbelievable. Jennifer, Vince, Laney, Jorge, you guys, and all of the commissioners, I really appreciate you guys. You all have our backs, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Walt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Walt.
Oh,
Your question.
so our event is October 30th for the stone crab season. I know y'all aren't talking till November about this.
Oh, no.
We were
no,
wondering
we're
if it would be retroactive.
We're talking Thursday, this
Okay.
Thursday.
Oh, we can
Okay.
also make it retroactive.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
For whatever, started October 1st.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Good morning. My name is Eric Mcneill from the Dunedin Scottish Arts Foundation. The Scottish Arts Foundation puts on the Highland Games every spring and the Celtic Festival every November. I think the last time I was here was about 2 years ago, when in this room anyway, when we were talking about the cancellation for the 2020 Highland Games, which, as you remember, was just a few weeks before the games was set to happen. The timing of that particularly really hurt us as a nonprofit organization. We, to basically keep ourselves afloat, depleted most of the resources that we had. We've been trying to do some small things to keep ourselves going. We did a very small, scaled-back Celtic Festival last November, and we are looking forward to hopefully a great Celtic Festival here this November 20th. But we've had to operate extremely cautiously financially to be able to pull this event off, because we have no reserves. They're gone, and we're trying really hard to figure out how to bring ourselves back to life and keep us going. Even though there's been no Highland Games, we've enthusiastically continued to get organized and plan, and we're really hopeful to have a great event this coming April 2nd, 2022. As you know, our events are a fundraising source for our middle school Scottish Arts program, high school band program, and our City of Dunedin community Scottish Arts programs. The schools in particular, they have continued to offer classes and offer programs because school has happened. But because of the pandemic, they haven't been allowed to fundraise all last year. The band boosters accounts have been severely depleted. And so something like this that would allow us to hopefully make a solid contribution to the programs that we support would really go a long way. So thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Hey, Jack.
Hello, all. Good to see y'all. Jack Batesall, I'm the president for the Downtown Dunedin Merchants Association. As you know, we have two of the largest events in the downtown area, and taking into consideration all the business owners and everybody has gone through this last year, this is a great step forward with being able to help the business owners as well as obviously our association organization to be able to put on these events. We don't know what we don't know. So, an event like these, we don't know with everything that's going on if we're going to have the large crowds and what we're going to do, but our expenses don't go away to be able to put on events like this. Even now we're preparing for Wines the Blues on November 13th, and we have vendor costs that have gone up. We've all heard that's just the way of life these days. It's the new normal. And with that, our now budget has grown quite a bit to be able to put on something like this. The other thing to take into consideration is that due to the pandemic, there are certain organizations and businesses that don't want to sponsor. They don't want to be part of a public relations event that might be gathering of a large amount of people. So that has changed for us as well. We rely on those sponsors and those sponsorship dollars to be able to bring in and help fund an event that we put on, these two events. We're not looking to profit from these. I've always said it since I've taken over the presidency. These events are for the city. They're for the downtown. They're able to draw people that'll come back to our businesses and visit our city at a later time, as well as have fun and entertain that night. But when you take all that stuff into consideration, a funding source and being able to get back up in a situation like this is greatly needed. So we thank you very much for taking this and putting this into consideration, supporting the businesses during the entire pandemic, like everybody said so far, and we really need the money. It's really not something that is questionable at this time. It's something that needs to happen. It has to happen for us to be able to function at a higher level and be able to produce these events. So thank you all.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else?
Hello, Mayor and Commissioner. Gregory Brady, 580 Skinner Boulevard, and incoming chair of the Chamber of Commerce. And our role at the Chamber is to advocate for the business community. And we believe that, in good faith, a lot of these organizations sometimes have to put on events, because I sat in their chairs a lot with no money. And if something happens, if there's a rainout, pandemic, it can jeopardize the organization itself. And we've worked hard through the pandemic as the Chamber, along with the Merchants Association, Visit Dunedin, and the City of Dunedin, to form an alliance to kind of look out for these groups, do co-op marketing on behalf of the business community. And one thing I did want to pull out that Commissioner Franey brought up was American Craft Endeavors. And we do believe that what we're hearing from our retail community is a lot of times events just don't benefit them. And we would like to see companies like American Craft Endeavors step up to the plate a little bit, carve out some of their spaces, their tent spaces, and open those up to our retailers. There are a lot of retailers that are not in the downtown that could benefit, and there are people in the downtown. We've been holding a series of retail workshops. We're finding that they would be encouraged to come out and participate in these events and be able to make money. But we strongly support giving these events money to get them back on their feet, to keep these partnerships going, because we all work as a team, and that team is to support the City of Dunedin, its residents, and its businesses. So thank you for hearing me. Good luck in the voting. And we do have a new event that we will be featuring in June, and it's Pride. It's something that we've kind of kick-started several times over the years, but we'd like to bring that back. So you'll be hearing from us about that event coming up as we begin our planning. And Jory Peterson on the events team for the city will be joining us in those meetings. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Greg. I think between Vince and Jennifer, that could certainly be a negotiation point of getting the funding.
Yes. As far as the Pride event goes, we do have $15,000 budgeted in our special event budget.
It's a new event, so it doesn't qualify for this.
Right, but we do have it budgeted, so we are going to support It's the logistical part of the
Okay.
event.
Anyone else wish to come forward? Okay, all great feedback. I'm going to come back. As we said, we're going to vote on Thursday, so it'll be a start item on our agenda. Rebecca? But I do want to give everybody an opportunity to do their final comments and possibly indicate what direction they're going to go if they feel so comfortable to do. I will start with Vice Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everybody that came forward, because I think as a commission, we feel we're doing the right thing, and we feel we're connected, but it's nice to hear it, and it's something that we really need. So thank you all for coming forward, telling us that we're doing the job that we think and should be doing. The only thing that I really want to suggest was Eric's comment about the booster programs in our schools. I know that at least twice this year, the band boosters at the middle school have reached out to me, wanting things as, I'll say, simple as drum pads, because they have more students in band, and there's just no money. There's no money. They reached out to me again for some tenor drums, and I think we're going to be able to help for some of it. And so it's just the devastation that these schools, it's performing arts in general, they don't get little to no funding. And so anything we can do, I don't know if it fits into any criteria, but if that can just be considered to some
Or
extent.
even aid to organization, we do have some funding left there.
I would say.
So that might be an opportunity. So why don't you work with Jennifer on that? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Brady?
No, I mean, I like this a lot. I think it makes, really just to say it so it's understood by citizenry. I mean, we're not giving money. I mean, we are giving money, but in a way, what we're doing is saying to get you jump-started after everything we've all been through, and because special events are so important to us, basically, we're going to kind of say, we're going to provide city services for free. We're going to let the sheriff's office services and covers that we require be free for this year to help you get going. And we know those are expensive. Way back, we used to cover a lot of those things. We don't. The events have to cover it. This is, to me, this is just like great customer service for something we know that we all care about because they make us who we are. And we all want them back. We want them to do it responsibly. And I think Walt's the one that said it. It's so true. You live on the edge anyway, and this just puts you on the edge even more. And I think Jack said it too. I mean, your expenses are your expenses. You're taking all the risks. So this is a way to share the risks, and I think it's a great use of money. One thing, I've already said, I think it's a stretch on the arts and crafts. I'm going to assume that we can't negotiate special circumstances with them because that probably violates, then we'd have to do it with everybody. But maybe you can. That's for you guys to decide before we take the formal vote. You could certainly, in all these cases, it's one event. You could say American Craft gets one event. They don't get four, they get one, because to me it's a stretch. But this is a great way to kind of help with something that's important to all of us. And we don't take all the risks. A lot of you guys do, so I like it.
Commissioner?
Yes, I was thinking about our community, and we're always there at your wonderful events, and so we're there in the good times. So the question is, we've got to be there in the bad times too. I mean, that's what makes a community. You're there in the good times, you're there in the hard times. So I'm very pleased to be able to support this.
Thank you. Commissioner Torgo?
Thank you, Mayor. I did review this and looked at this very carefully for the good of the largest amount of people. And I felt comfortable with what we're doing here. The program was set up for this, and the requirements were, we're getting help to make sure we understand what those requirements are. But it appears as though we're meeting those, and there's no one in here that I've seen or that I've noticed. And I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to present themselves if they fit the requirements here. But I don't see anything that's outside of a line of Hoyle, shall I say. So everyone is just trying to come back. We're just trying to come back and make ourselves whole. That's what the program was for. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this program the American Recovery Act program is going to help us do a lot of things. This is just one thing. It's a timely, time-sensitive thing because our business owners and our nonprofits have to plan if they're actually getting some funding, because it's a completely different plan. Right here it says, in the American Recovery Act, support of local tourism, travel, and hospitality. When I think about our group of special events, almost all of them do promote that. It also says later, business recovery in other areas. So whether it's a support of tourism or business recovery, it fits in to the general idea of what this money is meant for. I remember at the beginning of COVID, you know, I had a number of business owners that say, why aren't you handing us a check? St. Pete and Clearwater are. We didn't have any kind of money to do that, and we were worried that we were going to be, that our budgets were going to be blown out of the water just like everybody else. So I think the more things we can do like this over the next 2 or 3 years with this money that, you know, has been given to us for these kinds of things, I think the better for the entire community. As I mentioned earlier, I think the outdoor dining, we didn't not do the outdoor dining because only a few people, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 people benefited, or businesses benefited from it. It wasn't just about the businesses, it was about the residents that would actually go out if there was outdoor dining. It was about public health and safety. Not everybody could take advantage of that, but anybody that could, we gave it to them, and we gave them the ability to do that. Same with this. Some of the same people will benefit, but there are a lot of other people that will benefit, and it's not just about the actual business. It's about building back our economy. And yes, most of the events are in the downtown, and just is the way it is. But think about all the other little businesses, let's say besides maybe some of the retailers that have the one issue, all the businesses that are going to benefit from having people in events in downtown or at Edgewater Park. And most of these events are outside, if not all. So yeah, it is, one could say, well, we're encouraging gathering, except it's outside. And if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask.
Highlander Park.
You know, right? Highlander Park. I mean, so I think we're encouraging more healthy ways of people gathering. So it's not just the organizations that benefit. I think it's the people. I think it's our economy. I think it's also to our sense of mental health. I'm sorry, we've talked a lot about that, which small cities like us cannot really make a dent in it. But if you look at why people live here, besides our beautiful environment and the great people that are here, they're here because of our eclectic culture, which is essentially driven by the events that go on in our city. And that makes people feel better. So I think there's so many reasons to do this. And I will say, Commissioner Franny, I had the same reaction to the American Craft Vendors. Where I have come to with it is that if the goal, the overall goal, is to support local tourism, and we know people come over here from Tampa to do these things. You know, they're coming from out of the county or even out of the city, and they're spending money in other places. Travel and hospitality, then, you know, the sheer number of people they bring in, I think it's not about benefiting them, it's about the extraneous benefit for everybody else. And so if that's our ultimate goal, then I'm okay with it. I've just come to that conclusion. But I would say, and I don't think it's a problem, when Jory and her team meets with all the special events, there's always a negotiation on the footprint of the event, the this of the event, the that of the event, to be able to say, I need you to provide 5 tents or whatever the number is for local retailers. Because I think I've heard that complaint a number of years. So I don't think it's just to get this money. I think it's, you want to keep doing this in Dunedin, this is what we need you to do. You know, they can do their own setup, but they don't have to pay for the tent and all of that. So I just feel, it benefits the community all the way around. I feel it doesn't make us cherry pick who and what, because when I saw that, whatever that sports thing was, I'd never even heard of it and didn't even know we did it, which was kind of ironic. I thought I knew them all. I feel really positive about it. The biggest thing I thought about was, you know, when your event gets canceled, you have kind of a kitty, you know, after you've done an event a couple of times. And you sort of have this savings account that you use to start up the next year's event once this event is over. Well, when all those events got canceled and people had to close, these organizations were using that kitty, if you will, to keep them afloat. They don't have it anymore. So the idea of, to me, this gets them started, so whatever money they do make will help them in the following year to get that next event going. Hopefully, I mean, that's you know, the idea. So there's just so many benefits from doing this. So you wanted to add something?
You know, what I've heard on the craft, on the craft shows, is that there's no access. You know, they're so
right in front of the retailers.
crammed up that you can't get through to the retailers. So maybe that's what the footprint. You know, you need to really see that there's access to get behind them and really be able to also support the retailers, because I've heard that over and over.
Well, and maybe the tent is right by the retailer if it's a downtown one. I don't know, but I think they can accomplish that. I really do. I've heard this over and over. The Chamber of Commerce and as well as the merchants have been doing these retail quarterly, I don't know, I don't remember the whole thing, but they've been meeting up with them to try to give them more support and hear what their concerns are. And they've been saying this for a while. Even last year, I remember meeting with a couple of ladies from the Artisan that had different businesses in the area, either at the Artisan or around, you know, great young woman entrepreneurs and podcasters. And that was one of the biggest complaints they had, was that it's competition for them instead of support for them. And I even asked a question. I said, what if you were able to have a thing there? And they said they would absolutely be open for that. So it's not the first time. And I think Jory and Vince and Jennifer can figure that out. So I'm very supportive. We'll just do a start item on Thursday to make sure we're handling things appropriately. And Jennifer, the first question I got asked when I was speaking to some of the folks about this was, well, how does it all happen? I know there's a federal ID number. I know there's a process. We have to do everything according to the rules, but let's not make this complicated. Let's keep it simple, you know, the KISS method. Because these guys are already going out of their minds doing what they're doing. So let's just, I just beg. Let's keep it as simple as humanly possible. And you'll continue to talk to the sheriff. Okay.
Sure. We'll keep it as simple as we can, given we're dealing with the federal government.
Yes, I know. I know, but on our end, let's just, you know, and it sounds like it has to be sort of a payback thing. So we want to just notify these organizations that it is a payback, that they might have to credit card it out for, you know, a certain amount of time. But again, even in the payment part, let's not make it a 3-month get them their check thing. I mean, let's be ready and be on it, because these guys will be fronting this money if that's the case, and we don't want them sitting around waiting for months to get it.
Very good.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, because I know these guys are going to clear out, and then we have to come back and make sure we cover a few things with Commissioner Kynes before she has to go. All right, so again, because Commissioner Kynes has to duck out of here at noon, what I'd like to do is finish the American Recovery Act discussion, because I know there's questions on other parts of that, and you still have more of your presentation to give. And then what I'm going to do is move to Jennifer's review items so that Deborah can weigh in on that. And then we'll just go back to the regular order. If we will obviously just get rid of commission discussion stuff at the end to save time. And if there's anything else, we'll just move it to Thursday because it looks like there'll be time. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Okay. Les, you're on.
Okay, great. The next project is the Affordable Housing Workforce Housing Project that is eligible. And this project is included in our 22 business plan and budget. The city, and it's for city contributing $650,000 towards an application through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation grant program for proposed affordable housing units on Union Street. This item is actually going to be discussed today. There's an item 3C regarding this contribution for the city. And this proposed project would consist of a 70-plus multifamily affordable housing apartment. So this is currently in the penny fund in the 22 budget, but is eligible for this grant program as well. So Clearwater Ferry Service contributions, this is included in our 22 to 27 business plan. This service will not be rolled out until fiscal year 23 based on my most recent information.
That's correct.
There's more work to do, so in 23 we're estimating it will start. The city's contribution towards this operating cost for the expanded Clearwater Ferry Service to Dunedin Clearwater, the year-round cost for the city of Dunedin is estimated to be approximately $50,000 a year, beginning in 23, and the ARPA grant would be eligible also for capital cost of expanding the marina if that was something we wanted to do. Next is Downtown Looper Service. This is included in our 2022 business plan and budget. There's no budget for it currently. It's to be determined in the 22 budget. This is a looper service, proposed looper service to be a people mover in the downtown area to address parking and traffic challenges in downtown Dunedin. The estimated cost of this service is still being determined. Staff will bring estimated cost information forward to the commission at a future date, so we have no defined cost on this yet. The next is the septic to sewer connection program. There's more information on this in attachment 5, a little more information on it as far as the details, but in summary, this is not in our business plan. This project is not in our current business plan. But it is an important project. The city has 230 septic tanks in the city and surrounding area. Leaking and malfunctioning septic tanks are a public health and environmental issue. This program would provide the physical connection from the home to the, or business to the city's system, and also the abandonment of the existing septic tank at that property. Both the connection and abandonment portions require a licensed contractor to complete the work. The estimated cost per property is $6,000 to $10,000 and it is a financial burden to many property owners. The cost of the city for this program, if all the septic tanks were to be switched over, would be about $1.8 million. That would be, again, an average of $8,000 per property. And the next one is broadband fiber optic project and Wi-Fi project. This is more information on this in attachment 6 in your staffing. This is not in the current business plan. This project would provide installation of new fiber optic cabling and infrastructure, software and hardware both, equipment to public internet, Wi-Fi, and provide Wi-Fi zones in public parks, and also connect critical water wastewater systems to a secure internal network for monitoring and protection and from cyber attacks. Public Wi-Fi, it would provide public Wi-Fi in city parks and the city marina and harbor, public Wi-Fi zones in city facilities such as City Hall, Senior Center, fire stations, for example. The public Wi-Fi requires fiber optic cabling at various locations to improve and secure the connectivity for our city. The estimated cost of this project is about $3.7 million for all of these, the cabling and all the different hardware, software. And there would also be an ongoing legacy cost of about $60,000 a year for this project to maintain the hardware and software. The next project is the Highlander Pool Replacement Project. This is a $3 million project that's currently in our 22 business plan and currently in our penny fund budget. The current project replaces the existing pool with a new pool, pump, and mechanical facilities. The new pool would have improved accessibility, such as a zero-depth beach entry. And want to mention that amenities such as restrooms, offices, and support bathhouse facilities will require additional funding above the $3 million. And the next is the golf course capital improvements. There's more detail in attachment 8 of the staffing on this. This is not in our 22 budget. The City of Dunedin Golf Course Sustainability Plan study that was prepared by NGF that was recently presented to Commission identified recommendations to the golf course capital program and improvements to bring the course into good condition. The improvements include green enhancements and a new irrigation system, which is approximately $1.543 million, drainage improvements of $200,000, and other golf course improvements of $293,000. In addition, they recommended clubhouse patio and theme enhancements totaling $762,000. And the total estimated cost of improvements in the study ranged from $2.3 to $2.8 million. And the dollars in the slide I just walked through were on the conservative side. They were on the higher side, totaling $2.8 million. So that covers our projects that we feel are eligible at this time. And I mentioned that Skinner's eligible too. That just got confirmed yesterday, and we're still working through other projects, but that's kind of what we know as of today. Next, we're going to like to talk briefly about the City of Dunedin's community engagement. I'd like to turn it over to Sue Burness, the Director of Communications, to go over that slide. Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. So one of the projects that we are embarking upon is the opportunity for community engagement. So as Jennifer mentioned, we will be hosting 3 public meetings, and we will be following kind of the overall plan that St. Petersburg provided. I'll be working closely with Les. In doing that, we'll be using all of our platforms to get the information out to the public. We may be looking at some surveys. One of the videos that we're going to be doing this month will be your city update will be from our city manager, your city at work, and she's going to be doing an overview on the budget, but also kind of teeing up these public meetings as well. So we're looking forward to getting the information out, to getting that public input, and working all together in that process.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then just next steps is we're going to continue to review the list of department head projects that we mentioned earlier. We're still vetting those with Witt O'Brien's firm, and we'll continue to do that over the next few weeks and begin the community engagement for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And then the plan is in late winter, bring back the ARPA plan to the Commission for input and direction after we've had the public input. That concludes our presentation. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
I'm sure there are.
And we do have our technical assistants here via Zoom and also here. So.
Okay, I'm going to start at this end this time. Commissioner Kynes.
You know, this is some of my thoughts that I wrote down. Would acquisition of the Jerry Lake under the GDP possibly fall under this somewhere? And I don't know, so I'm just throwing that out. And I think that's the one that has the dam, also known as the weir, the dam weir, right?
Damn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. Also, you know, I did talk to Jennifer a long time about, you know, if we undertake the required renovations to the golf club and grounds, what kind of agreement would we have with the DGC, a strong agreement, because eventually even the best, most beautiful renovations, they still have to be maintained. So that was my issues on that, or my questions. On the MRF, again, could we look at a MRF for the North County, joining with other municipalities or Pinellas County. Also, I received something on the ARPA from the National Endowment for the Arts that we're looking for people to read grants for funding for the ARPA. So I'm wondering, I chose not to do it because I just couldn't read another 40 grants. But there are some provisions, I know, under the ARPA. You were asking about that for performance arts, or I think this is probably visual art that I received this request on. So I would like to flesh out what may be available under the ARPA and for the arts, performing arts, visual art, whatever. So I'd like to flesh that out. And I think those are my little questions or comments.
Do you have any answers on any of those?
I'll answer the last one there. So, an extension of how we're helping the city is not just limited to evaluation of the local fiscal recovery fund. We do actually keep a rolling stock of a legislative analysis that breaks down all those other buckets that you saw in the presentation, the billions. There was $61 billion listed in other, right? That actually distills down into thousands of micro grants at the federal level. It is nearly impossible to stay on top of all of them, but what we do try to do is if we understand that there is a specific focus, whether it be arts or if it be culture,
Arts, culture.
yeah, any one of those
absolutely.
things, then we can
History,
actually distill into the agencies that are typically responsible for administering those grants and see if they have, whether it be competitive or allocation-based grant programs. There does have to be an analysis of, okay, this requires an application, how complicated is the application, what sort of input is going to be required, and then what is the byproduct of that actually going to result in if we are actually selected, right? Because some of these very much may be a factor of the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? Of we could put a lot of time and effort in to secure $20,000 or $30,000 when this is a much more flexible
It could be a
use of funds.
matching. I mean, because I didn't choose to go through that process, I don't know how they were working it. So, I just throw that out there. I think, again, we're trying to do one and done. We're trying to do big projects that affect a lot of people. So, I'm not telling you to get in the weeds and spend 150 hours, but if it's pretty evident from other jurisdictions that they are using something for something, and that might be sort of a springboard. Yeah.
And we'll commit to doing that, right? Which is we're supporting over 100 jurisdictions across the country, and so we do actually have sharing those concepts and ideas. I think is important.
And I think
seeing
that
what other
might be
people
the
are
way,
doing.
instead of just trying to, and history, I would say arts, culture, history, historic preservation, just that broadband of other jurisdictions, if they are including something along those lines that we could look at. That's fair, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's it.
I think Vince has something.
Commissioner Kynes, I can answer the golf course question. Right now, we have continued with Richard Singer as he did the presentation for the National Golf Foundation for us, and we'll be back in front of the City Commission on November 30th at a workshop to talk about where we go next. Right now, we're looking at 4 different operating structures. We're evaluating them. We're going to be in front of our Dunedin Golf Club on October 27th. We'll be in front of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee on November 10th, and we'll be in front of the Board of Finance on November 17th, and then we'll be in front of the City Commission on November 30th. So we are looking at 4 different type organizational structures, and I know that the more money the city put in, according to our city manager, the more control we feel that we should have.
Well, again, I am not poo-pooing that this would not be a great one-and-done project, but all things have to go on, and maintenance is just a continuing issue to an asset like that.
Right.
So I just want to be sure that that's all worked out.
And we'll be giving you the pros and cons of each of the operating structures.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Torga?
Thank you, Mayor. I've taken the opportunity to have a number of conversations with the city manager about this, and fundamentally what I really said was Just whatever we do, that it's for the greatest number of people. She's mentioned that, and also that in the critical, really critical projects. I also have given input, and I guess since we're doing this, sort of we're verbally doing it to everyone that's listening. I categorize that by the concept of water, sewer, and roads. We have sea level rise coming along sometime in the near future. We're expecting, unfortunately, that we're going to have that as an occasion. And so, we could spend a lot of money just on getting our people dry that are now wet, because we do still have problems. So I would really like to focus on that. But my really thing that her and I have continued to talk about was that we pick things that we can make decisions and go with quickly. Get ahead of the rise of other municipalities. I mean, at some point in time, I'm kidding, asphalt's going to run out, and when we all know supply and demand, and price goes up when either supply comes down or demand goes up. So to do it as quickly as we can, make the commitments that are things we know we're going to commit to. And I've with a smile on my face, I've always said, people walk out of their house and they see a new road in front of their house, they love it. We have to do it over time, so some people don't get it right away, but everybody loves that. And if we know we're going to do the road, well, that's pretty, self-explanatory. So let's jump on that and try not to make it too complicated. That ties in with my communication about when we go to the public, and Jennifer's talked about that already, and said, we need to give them some buckets or some ideas of where we're going to go, so that little Johnny doesn't stand up and say, well, how about if we build a tower that's 500 feet up so we can all look over the city? That would be nice too, but I think we have enough things that we can immediately fill up that $18 million and to do it as quick as we can. So I just wanted to give that input. I appreciate I had an opportunity to talk with you for 5 or 10 minutes a bit ago, and what you can offer us is fantastic. So, and in conjunction with these two folks that really take care of a lot of this money, was fantastic. So, I've had great conversations with the city manager, confidence there, love you guys being involved in this, and I'm just for getting it done as quick as we can.
And I just want to, not to interrupt you, but this is time for questions versus comments, because I want to open to the public. Did you have some kind of a response?
The only response I want to say is just broader as we start to look at the ARPA, understanding that it's not just the local fiscal recovery fund. An important consideration is we may still have an infrastructure package. There are other surface road block grant programs that are offered at the state level that you may be able to apply and leverage for some of those road projects. There's also annual allocations through FEMA's BRIC program and mitigation and resiliency. This administration has an implied focus on trying to reverse the impacts of climate change, and as a result, there is a plethora of funding available for some of those resiliency measures. And so I think to be good stewards to the city, we can make you aware of them as they become available, and give you some parameters on how to potentially apply for those programs. And working with the city staff, I think that's probably the greatest benefit that we can provide on a regular basis. But while I understand the rush to find easy, shovel-ready projects, there is also some benefit in understanding that this local fiscal recovery fund is the most flexible. So it can be the bucket of funds that when something doesn't fit, the round peg in a square hole, or, so to speak, right? This is that funding source that you can tap into to make it work. But funding optimization, I think, is key. Finding every available funding source, and then when you can't find one for what you want to do, relying on this local fiscal recovery funds.
Great comment. Thank you.
Questions, Vice Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. We have included septic to sewer in our list. I was wondering if we could also include lateral lines and sewer system overflows and concerns of that nature. And then that can be considered, right? I believe right now at $1 million a year, we have 79 years before we'll be completed in that project, but we could throw more money at it.
I'm not sure about the laterals if
Maybe
they're
my
on private
great-great-great-
property, but the septic sewer overflow, yeah, I would imagine. But we'd have to vet that.
And happy to hear that you can offer some advice as far as the sea level rise and climate change and things like that. Thank you very much. How about our multimodal plan?
Well, that's why I think they have the ferry and the trolley, but that doesn't address any of the other things. But that's why they have those two there.
The looper.
Right.
And I think we're going to hear a lot of that during the public input sessions as well.
Right.
That's it. That's all that I had. So thank you very much.
I'm going to mix my thing because I think that's what the original commissioners did, and I can be done. So, John, I just had to say, except Victoria Drive. If you came out and there was asphalt on Victoria Drive, they wouldn't be happy. Yeah, that would be the only exception. I had to say that. My one question, I think it's an easy answer, I hope. When the county gets their money, do they get less because the cities get some, or they get something for their overall citizenry? It's not incorporated.
Yeah, so the way that the funds were actually distributed was a bit complicated in that the county received a direct allocation, and then cities that were greater than 50,000 in population, they meet the HUD definition of entitlement. They become metropolitan cities, and so they get a direct allocation from the Treasury, and then any taxing authorities, townships, villages, boroughs, or cities that fall under that 50,000 threshold have to access their funds as a non-entitlement unit from the state. So unfortunately, not all the funding got distributed at the same time. So counties and metropolitan cities have actually already received their funds. The NEUs trailed by about 60 days, and it really is relying on the states. Most states have requested an NEU extension that allowed them to step outside of that 60-day timeline. So that's sort of what's in play here. But the county has already received its funding, or at least the first allocation of it. Granted, you had asked about what their plan is. It's evolving. They're obviously going to look at, one-time projects, but they're hesitant to jump in with both feet too, because the infrastructure bill would have a pretty significant impact for them. And multi-jurisdictional connectivity is a fabric of the infrastructure bill, finding opportunities for jurisdictions to partner on opportunities. And so I think there is some hesitation to jump too much in. Our suggestion has always been to use on the front end some of these ARPA funds, the local fiscal recovery funds, on the planning stage ahead of that infrastructure package. That allowed you to get shovel-ready projects that then you could either leverage ARPA funds if the infrastructure bill doesn't give you what you need. You could even do general obligation bonding, because one caveat to the slide that said you can't do debt servicing. You can't do debt servicing backwards. You can actually service debt moving forward, at least through the expenditure period. And then finally, if you do actually get the infrastructure package or state level, roads programs or infrastructure programs, you could use it for that as well.
Good. I'm just going to make the comment that I look forward to getting all the big picture stuff of what we can use it for. So we're not, and I think as we do that, it will help, because obviously if we pick several of these projects, it takes pressure off the penny, which then is going to feed the road program, brick program. And how we deal with some of that. I'm going to be right up front from the beginning. I see this as an amazing opportunity to get our pool done in one main project, which is much more efficient. I think it'll save us money, and it's one of our signature projects, and we can actually get it done by the end of the decade, which would be awesome. Other than that, I don't have anything to add right now. I'll wait for big picture stuff and our next discussion. Good work, though.
Okay. A couple of questions. I believe what I read in the, I don't know how many, 70-some pages of the American Recovery Act documents, that it did talk about business facade. It talked about two things, I believe. It talked about reimbursement for anything people had to do during COVID. If they had to change their, like restaurants, if they had to put these things up, right? But it also talked about improvement, like if you wanted to add outdoor seating, right, to people, or do facade improvements. I don't know exactly what the caveats were, but I would ask that you all look into that. I see a lot of benefits in this. Going back to looking at what they spent on this, I think, I won't use the words you used, but there's not a whole lot of return on investment with the reimbursing people and trying to determine and the what would appear to be a small amount of money, you know. But I do see future facade programs as being a huge opportunity for a number of reasons, especially if they're adding outdoor seating, where maybe it's not a 50% match, maybe it's, you know, maybe it's 75. I don't know what that should be, but it would encourage an expanded area for their business and help them with their economic recovery for a small investment on their part, and would also encourage the look of our community, especially if they're doing, you know, it doesn't have to be a restaurant, it can be any number of businesses that want to improve the look, the quality of life, which again also drives our economy and drives visitors. So I would love for you guys to look into that. And what other, you know, love to see some recommendations after you, I guess, hear from the public or the business community on other kinds of programs that we could help them with that are not terribly cumbersome for a small amount. What is your opinion about where this infrastructure bill is going? Got one? Because we're all desperately waiting to hear.
Yeah, so what's interesting is I think depending on where we land on the omnibus as well, I think there very well could actually be a lot of components are getting shifted around between the different bills. You know, it's half new investment, half old investment. I think everybody forgets that the nation actually distributes hundreds of billions of dollars through traditional, you know, federal to state block grant programs already. So I think you don't just have to keep an eye on the federal government, you also need to keep an eye here in the state on exactly what transportation grant programs that they're actually going to be distributing and pushing funding down through. I think something will get passed. I just can't commit. I would have thought it would already been done. We do actually meet with some lobbyists on a pretty regular basis that are giving us the beat on what's happening. But it's anybody's guess at this point. You know, it's...
And do you believe that the infrastructure program will be based on a grant type thing where you would have to apply, so it won't be like on a lump sum of money like we're doing with this?
So unfortunately, there's a lot less flexibility in the infrastructure grant or bill as it's currently developed. So there are many, many different federal existing vehicles to distribute money from a federal entity, whether that be FAA, FTA, the Federal Highway, you know, Administration, or HHS, HUD, et cetera, down to states or units of local governments. And they would just be leveraging those existing frameworks to distribute the funding.
So you're not getting a lump sum.
You're not getting a lump sum. There may actually be a capital improvement fund like we've seen with the Treasury in this most recent allocation. That being said, it's going to be a mix of both competitive grant programs and allocations based on set methodologies. And we do actually have a summary of the infrastructure bill as it's currently written, obviously subject to change, that delves into that, which is what is competitive, what, you know, are units of local government actually eligible for this, or is it exclusively a state entity that can access these funds? We'll make sure that the city staff has a copy of that.
Would you distribute that? I mean, I know it may change, but I think we're most focused right now on the infrastructure part, not the social services part. So even if it's just that piece of it to understand, because I think in our ongoing monthly, you know, next couple of months, we're going to be talking a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think broadband's a perfect example. There is actually bipartisan support for infrastructure as a whole. And so that's why I say an infrastructure bill will get passed at some point in time. You know, there's $65 billion currently theorized for broadband connectivity. We know that that's going to be maybe some flexible Treasury funding, but also likely to be USDA's Rural Urban Access Program. So we've got a jump start. We know what the framework of that program is. We know it's a competitive grant program. And we can look at some previous applications to see how the city may be pre-positioned to apply for that based on some connectivity deserts, right?
So there's a lot of maneuvering here amongst all these different funding sources. So when we're looking at these projects that you had on a list, they could be funded through 3 different things. That's, not really for our discussion today. Okay, one other thing, as a question. The 501c3s out there in the world that do a number of different things. Is there a summary somewhere, you don't have to do it right this second, that you can provide us? I know we're going to have a meeting with our local 501c3s, but just some kind of summary that you can provide us that kind of talks about what kinds of things we can do for 501c3s. And I know there's all different ones. Listen, I get it. Like, we've got art ones, we've got history ones, we've got a food bank, we've got a flower place, we've got a business organization, several, you know what I'm saying? I mean, are there things that we can do for their recovery purposes? And so if you could provide us, again, you don't have to do it this second, but if you can provide us sort of with a even high level outline, I think that would be helpful as we're talking to people, because we've been asked by a number of people, why aren't you just stroking a check to Dunedin Cares, which is our food bank? Well, we have to look at everybody, and we probably will, but we have to look at everybody, and we have to look at what kinds of things we can do, and so you can provide that to us, something?
Yeah, I mean, at a super high level.
Yeah, super high level.
Yeah, I would break it into two different categories. There's actually relief, right, which is, they have lost funding sources and they need sustainable revenue to continue to operate because they provide a critical function to the city and its residents, especially the historically disadvantaged or disproportionately impacted populations. And then there's a separate one, which is adaptation. How do they need to adapt services to meet public health standards or the changing dynamics of the community? And that could be a rush on services because what they provide, like food bank, there is actually a fair amount of food insecurity because of loss of employment, right? So those are the two major buckets, I would say, is regardless of the industry that they're serving or the function they're serving, it's either providing them straight up fiscal relief or continued sustained operations, or adapting their current delivery to meet the new standard, whatever the new standard is.
I think that tells us enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have some final comments too, but I'm going to open it up for public comment if anybody here wishes to speak to this part of our discussion. Okay, seeing or hearing none. Vice Mayor, any final comments?
No, it's nice that we're finally able to discuss this and talk about it and see things get aligned. I'm really anticipated about seeing what the public has to say.
Anything else, Commissioner Franny?
Yeah, I'd only say that article yesterday was interesting, and we're doing what we're supposed to do. And
which one was that?
It was the article that said cities are spending their money too slowly. We haven't gotten the money yet. And
we haven't gotten our money.
It kind of defied, good responsible government to me. But it was a good headline. But anyway, I'm glad we're doing this. I think, there's great opportunity here. Very thankful for it. And it's important that we get the input and have the whole big picture of what all we can do and just, make some decisions and get moving. As Commissioner Tarnga said, pick some things and get moving since we have deadlines on it.
I always drive her crazy because I ask questions when I'm not supposed to be. I'm giving comments when I'm supposed to be asking questions, and I ask questions when I'm supposed to be giving comments. But something came to me, and I think from what you were saying, if there are multiple sources, say the ARPA could be one source, and if you have a state source, because I'm specifically thinking of septic to sewer,
Yeah,
which
there is a state source.
So can you mix those? Okay, thank you. That was my question.
In most cases, it's not all cases you can. Some of the state programs have match requirements, and those match requirements, depending on what the statutes or regulations associated with it may say that the match can't be served by other federal sources. But with few exceptions, I would say most, you can tie multiple funding sources together. A caveat, though, is the general rule around federal funds is the second you introduce one federal funding source into some other ones, the rules to whatever the most stringent program applies to all of the funding. So you've got to be pretty strategic in how you pull that off.
Okay, well, that's a very good thought, and but I am really excited about it. I was excited about the projects we have brought forward to talk about, and looking forward to the public input. Thank you very much.
Anything further, Commissioner
I
Turner?
just say that I agree with everything that everybody said, and thank you very much, appreciate it, and I'm glad we put this on the agenda. Thank you.
So I'm also really excited on behalf of our community. I think we're all very concerned about being really good stewards for this really once-in-a-lifetime opportunity based on something that was really terrible that happened. So I think, you know, the idea of the buckets is good. The idea of presenting many, many different opportunities to the residents at our, and business owners and 501c3s at our communication town halls is going to be important to guide them. Doesn't mean they're not going to come up with some new things that we hadn't thought about, but, you know, I think it's important to provide something with feedback and being able to fairly pick those buckets, you know, to try to affect all different aspects. A lot of the things you brought forward were not necessarily business related, if, you know, they were more infrastructure related. And so I think it's really important that we, you know, look at the different folks, you know, residents in one end, business community. I think that's a bucket. You know, how can we keep supporting them over the next couple of years until things, you know, try to get back to normal? And same with the 501c3s. I think that's important because, I mean, that's why we've gotten the money. It's not all about infrastructure, even though that does create jobs.
Recovery.
It is about recovery. I would also say that a little off the wall, but as we pick up the pace on some of these projects that we end up doing over time, would love to really see something that, some kind of policy that brings those jobs local, that focuses on local jobs. In the past, our previous city attorney told us we couldn't do that, but I'd like us to look back into that again because we have a new city attorney. I really want to see some of that play out because we really are trying to not just benefit our city, but our region, you know, and so would love to find opportunities of hiring people from at least within our state or our region versus, you know, because there's going to be a lot of that going on with this money over the next several years. So I really would like to focus it if possible. I also want to echo Commissioner Franey's thoughts about the pool. This idea of doing it over a couple of years, while I understood it, I don't like it. And, you know, if we are going to do the pool, that's not to say that the entire money will come from this pot that we're talking about today. It could be a combination of any number of things. So given that, and given that we do have an opportunity with this funding, I'd like to see us do our pool right. I really want to see community input on it. I don't want us to cheap it out, you know, because we don't have enough money, you know, which is kind of what we kind of did after everything else at least the current proposal in my mind is that way. I'm not saying it's got to be, you know, Adventure Island. You know, but I am saying I want something that not only fits seniors and kids, but teenagers. And, you know, once you hit 13, it's really hard to get your teenager involved in something outside of school. And having a place for them to go, well, they're not going to come to a lap swimming pool. That ain't going to happen. They got to have something else. So I just really want to.
Adventure Island.
Yeah, and mom and dad aren't driving them over there every weekend either. Trust me, I had to go through that. Never again. So I really want us to really look comprehensively at the pool within reason and the different funding sources. So I do put that out. Other than that, I want to hear what everybody else has to say in the community. And I'm really proud that we are giving our community this opportunity. I know that, and I'm just going to put it out there, when the BP funding, we got the BP funding, we didn't do that. Now, there was a reason we didn't do that. We had a huge thing we were trying to accomplish, and we put our money into that. And you know, I don't regret that. I don't, because we needed that project. But, and we're seeing it now. We're seeing the benefit of moving forward with that project. But I will say that I feel that this is the most important thing we can do with this kind of money, is go out and get input and, you know, move forward as a group. So having said all of that, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We are going to jump, because we've got 10 minutes. We're going to jump to Jennifer's review, because we know that Commissioner Kynes has to leave. Find that. I think Teresa's around here somewhere.
She is. This is Jennifer's review, part 2.
Yeah, but
No, I don't like the fact that we're cramming it into 10 minutes, but.
Part 2.
That potentially got us in trouble the last time.
You know what, Mo, if I have to leave, you all go ahead, at least I'll get some comments in, understood. Sorry about.
Important though. I mean, no, I understand about you, but it is important.
okay, so I was going to take this in 2 parts, one of which was the goal sheet. We wanted to review that and determine that everybody was okay with everybody's goals that were listed. I don't know if you guys took a look at that. I did. So if you're not ready to, are you ready to start then? Are you okay with the list, or did you have questions?
You know, my only concern might be Jennifer's, which would be, there's some that seem, maybe could have some more clarity in them.
Yeah, I had a few of those.
Yeah,
myself.
personally, and I apologize, because one of the things I want to do is add one to mine.
Okay.
And that is monitoring and review of custodial contract, the 6-month review, which is already something in the plan, but I think it's a very, very important.
Okay. So you want to add that to yours?
I want to add that to mine, and then, in the interest of holding Jennifer's feet to the fire, there are a few I wasn't sure I understood.
Do you want to say what they are?
Well, I guess, you know, Vice Mayor, yours, don't let the master plans collect dust. I mean, obviously, I understand the master plans, but I didn't know if there was more clarity to what you could add, you know? Make it more of an action item for her, you know?
Well, the reason I phrase it that way is because every initiative in every plan is an action item. So either I list 4,000 different items, you know, and so I did talk it over with Jennifer, and I'm gonna, I guess, let her kind of figure it out, but the thought process I had is, as we go through the budget and everything, is we identify all of our projects and initiatives and action items by goal, by fund, by, that we would actually include the plan it's coming from, if there is a plan attached to it.
Is that what you want to make the action item then?
Yeah, if that's not clear, then yes, I guess, to make it part of the budget, business initiatives, all that, then yes, I would.
Could we,
I don't know if that's a change or in addition to.
could we add to that, Jennifer? Certainly not a rushing priority, okay, but could you maybe get your department heads to work together and compile a list of the various master plans that are out there that we're still working on?
Sure.
Because
That would be great.
I think that would be really
That would
good,
help.
because I will tell you, you know, I understood exactly what you were
I did
saying.
too. I mean,
And the
so
intent
it
wasn't
criticism.
to create gotcha moments for.
Yeah, and especially as you have new people coming in, I just think it would be helpful if we have those in front of our face. Where are we? I mean, there have been several marina master plans done, frankly, that have not been completed. But I just think it would be helpful to understand, and maybe the date that they were created would be helpful. And again, not, you know, don't everybody go rushing at once, but I think that we can maybe help define that a little bit more once we get that.
Starting in January, as we start to go through the strategic plan in the next budget cycle and to incorporate.
And that might be helpful too, yeah. Okay.
I mean, really, my two other, beginning historic districts, and Deborah, this is yours.
Yeah, I can talk to it.
Yeah, because I didn't, that's not actually in our business plan yet,
No,
right?
no, well,
Or is
it is that, here's what I'm doing. I'm seeding I'm seeding it in your minds. I don't think it's going to happen in a year. I don't think it probably will happen in 2 years, but I've got to start seeding in your minds that it's going to happen and that it's going to be important. So that is my process of saying because they're naturally flourishing little areas now that could easily be historic districts with a few more, adds of houses. So do I think it's going to be like that? Do I think it's going to be a year? Nope. And I doubt before I leave. But
why don't we remove from this list that, but we will have what we're saying, January maybe now, Jennifer, the overlay. And I think we'll talk more about that versus this. And in January or February, when our strategic planning, that's where you bring it up.
How about we change it to review historic district, or review historic district ideas? How about that? I think that's fair. And then that sort of goes along with the overlay district, because somehow they've got to be able to work together. So I think that is fair. And I've said, I don't expect that you're going to do this in a year, but I say begin to review historic district criteria. That's very fair.
Can we do that along with the tweaking of the historic preservation ordinance?
Well,
a workshop on that?
Yeah, we could.
I think we could at least start the dialogue.
We can start the dialogue
the goal.
really well there, but I think I wasn't clear, and I think if I put it much easier, like just begin to review the designation criteria for a historic district. I think that's as loose as you can go.
Okay. Yeah. I think we can put that with I think when we're tweaking the historic preservation ordinance, I think the districts are going to come up automatically as a conversation.
I think so.
So that meets review. It doesn't mean we're solving what the review is.
No.
Are you okay with that, Jennifer?
I am.
Everybody else?
Yep, cool.
Okay.
And then, sorry, I guess I'm taking one from everybody's area, and you guys can just go at mine. Improve the operation of the marina. I wasn't really sure I understood that one, Commissioner Torringa.
Sure, I'll make a comment about that if you
Yeah, I
like.
just don't want to hold her accountable to something I don't understand.
That was probably the only one that I felt comfortable putting at the bottom, realizing that I wanted to put it there, but you probably didn't have an idea of the rest of it. And there were some that I didn't have in here, but other people already had them, so I wasn't worried about it. But what I meant by that was, during the COVID, we ended up getting kicked out of the marina. And most of us didn't, all the boats got kicked. Most of the boats got kicked out of the marina. We had no idea that was going to happen. There's a lot of bad taste in that, terrible bad taste in that. We have been working on and had spent money as early as 2015 on Dock A. Dock A needed to be redone, and then followed in subsequent years with the other docks. And we just twisted that around somehow quickly and decided that we would do the dredge instead. And so we didn't do the Dock A. And then they were telling us they were going to do the Dock A the next year, and they were going to ask us to leave again from the marina. And that just doesn't fly well. I was very specific myself personally, as well as working with other people, talking about the new the electrical pedestals that were coming in. We just had an electrician down there this week, and lo and behold, we got some problems with our pedestals, in my opinion. If you're on a boat and you get knocked off, the boat next to you gets knocked off the electrical, it will knock your boat off as well. And if you're not down there, and if you've got things in the refrigerator or whatever you have, so the choice of the pedestals is in question. So there's things like that. I've talked to Jennifer about some of this, and so I just want to make sure that when we do this, that we're listening to people that know what they're talking about or some idea of what's happening, and that we have as professional management as we can in there, so that we don't do things like what I just talked about. Number one, having us not know what's happening and suddenly being asked to leave the marina at a short-term notice, and then ended up with pedestals and there's many other things. So that was why I put that in like that.
Can I ask Jennifer? This is going to turn into a long conversation, I think, and I'm really trying to get through this for Deborah, but I was under the impression, Jennifer, that you had professional people looking at the pedestals and we got an opinion, and there's just a disagreement on the opinion?
We do. We've had electricians down to look at the
And
pedestals, yes.
obviously, we know that with the dredge, that the way we communicated with people was wrong. We readily said it was wrong. And ultimately, everybody was, they were annoyed but happy with the way, it ended up turning out. I believe that with the Dock A, we pushed that out for 3 years now so that we wouldn't have to ask people to leave the marina so close.
Yes.
Right? Which is why we're doing the pedestals and why we're...
That's correct.
So I think there's just a difference in opinion on how the marina is running, and I know, John, you're down there all the time, and I so appreciate that. But I don't want to give people an impression that the operation of the marina is poor and that that's why it's there. I'm just going to put it right out there.
Then I'll put it right out there that I'll take a question from you. First of all, I was down there when the electricians were down there. I have no idea how they were selected. If I were selecting the pedestals, surely they would not have been. These pedestals would not have been selected. How would you like to be on a boat that comes up next to you and knocks off your electricity? They shouldn't be able to touch your electricity.
I totally agree with you, but I think you're creating a story about the marina. I mean, it's operations.
Yeah.
You're two things. You're a customer, okay, which I totally appreciate because I had been to for a while, but you're also a commissioner, and I think I don't want to give an impression that the marina is being run poorly. I think we have put Jorge in place. I mean, we just got, I don't know, any number of emails this last week about staff at the marina and how great they're doing.
I'm sorry?
Yeah?
Yeah, we did.
We did?
You got what?
Emails talking about how great, our marina staff is doing.
Well, I'm a commissioner, and I'm talking as a commissioner here. I'm not talking about as a person. I have no problem with my pedestal. I've never had a problem with my pedestal. But there's other people that have problems with their pedestal, and we discovered why.
Gotcha.
And now they're going to, and I said, you're going to purchase 60 more. Please do not purchase those pedestals until we find out what the status is. So I don't want, your comment is now, well, everything is okay, so now somebody's going to go ahead and purchase those same pedestals. Those pedestals are shaky at best. So that's what I mean when I say.
How about if we restate the statement? How about if we put it like this? Because it's not that I don't hear what you're saying, John, I do. Again, it's the wording of it. I think maybe what we're talking about is, ensure that the capital improvements are the appropriate ones for the marina, or something to that effect.
Mayor, if I may, I have make sure we are listening to people, i.e. communications. I have ensure professional management, and we can add ensure that capital improvements receive input, and that would be through the Marina Advisory Committee and any other input in the marina.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I did attend the Marina Advisory Committee in Jorge's stead yesterday. He had family matters to attend to, and listen to the public input as well during the course of that committee. So we did step up our effort of communication after the dredge issue, and I believe that we're communicating well with the marina, with the slip renters, and we'll continue to do so, and certainly take any input that we need as well from our slip renters and the commercial dock as well.
I'll tell you what, you can take it off for all I care, but it's not happening good down there, okay? And it's not, and this is an presentation right now we're going to have a major disagreement about this, because I'm not going to agree to some of those things. It's not right. We've had problems down there. If we hadn't demanded this to occur, we would have sat there with having problems with the pedestals, and they would have ordered 60 more pedestals. And we asked them to check those pedestals before they ordered them, the ones we have today. And they did, and they listened to these people, and these people were the very ones that were down there. And I was there, and when I discovered what was going on, even they shook their heads a little bit, so, on the pedestals. So, the pedestals are what keep the electricity alive. We got pedestals where we don't need them. We have pedestals that don't have the adequate, or have something that's incorrect on them. We've got pedestals and where boats are gonna be lined up that take 30 amps and they got 50 amp on them.
Okay.
So, and they're new. So,
I think we just leave it there then.
okay.
Okay, sorry, guys. I mean, and I'm not aware of some of that, John, so, I mean, I'm certainly aware the dredging issue was one of the worst things that happened since I've been a commissioner. It was a mess, and I think a lot of cleanup happened after that. But I don't know a few of these other things. I guess I'll have to have Jennifer brief me. My last one was just, Jennifer, evaluate our organizational employee position needs for the next 5 years in order to achieve our goals in a timely manner. And I guess, yeah, and I just asked that because I know this is an issue that you brought up before, and I guess, you know, from the standpoint of, I just want it to be something, you know, that Jennifer feels she can do, and it makes sense to her and her, because I think we've said that, it's a city manager's role. I think she does it well on an ongoing basis as part of the budget, and quite frankly, sometimes the best restructurings are when somebody leaves and you have opportunities to restructure. So I just didn't know how you felt about that goal as an actionable.
You know, that particular goal, and I don't think it's going to be covered entirely by the organizational study that we're doing. You know, we keep on, yeah, part of it will. We keep on lumping stuff into the organizational study. But that said, you know, typically at the beginning of the budget year, I have the request from the department directors for positions. There are new positions, and typically it's, unless it's very critical to your operations, I'm going to say no. So I think the operational study is going to help us with that and plan out, you know, in the next 5 years exactly what our needs are, and we can, you know, work toward that as well.
So this falls in place.
Yes. Yeah, I am comfortable with that one.
I'm good, and you know, it's the first time we've talked about these as group goals, so I mean, obviously, it's good discussion, because otherwise you're gonna be confused and feel like you're held to something you can't fulfill, so, appreciate it.
Did you have any questions on any of the goals?
No, I did not.
Okay. John, any
No, I'm
questions?
fine, thank you.
Okay. I did have one for you, though, John, to streamline the budget process. Can you be just a little more specific
Yes,
on that
yes,
one?
yes, I have, and I've spoken with Jennifer about that. What I'm talking about is we seem to spend just so much time on the budget, and I know I've heard commissioners talk about, oh, we spend all this time on the budget. You know, I have a lot of experience with this, of course, and I'll just give an example. When I was working in Europe, I've got 7 countries. I have a month to do a budget for 7 countries. They're all different. We do the budget, and then we go on and do our business. And we seem to spend a lot of time. We have a lot of pages in the budget. Many of them are continuous and constant refreshing and reflashing. And I appreciate what's been going on. We've been doing that, and I just want to make sure we continue to do that. For the people that are doing the budgeting, so that they have time and time to do other things. And I just see a lot of time being spent on budgets, way more than what I think need to be done. So that's what I meant by that. So if you can streamline it more.
Are you, just one second. Deborah, are you okay with these goals, given what we just talked about?
I am.
Okay,
I
so that can be
definitely
part
am.
of our consensus direction.
Yes, but I did think you would want me to vote on what we're gonna do on her thing.
Well, I think we should postpone it till Thursday. So we can, I don't want to be rushed, just like what you said.
Okay, so.
We'll postpone that piece. I'm sorry, Teresa.
Part 3 then, on Thursday. Mayor, if I do want to add one, I'm sorry. I think we need to put the reverse osmosis water treatment plant in the goals for this year. It's bringing the plant up to speed and ensuring the repairs are in place.
I think you add that to the business plan.
Both. I mean, but it needs to be.
This, I think, are the kinds of little things that are not necessarily a capital project in a business plan. It's it's just other things. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's different.
Okay.
All right, so we'll push
I'll
off.
see you all Thursday.
But, okay, so,
I may have to swim, but whatever.
You'll be here.
so if we say streamline, can we say determine whether we can streamline the budget process? Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, actually, I got put down as being a similar one of mine, and I mean, yeah, always look for streamlining, but I think we do pretty doggone good. So, I mean, obviously, you always look for more ways, but, and, my thing is, we got a lot of budget challenges, and we got some holes to fill, so, but I can go along with the rewording.
Okay. All right, everybody okay with the goals then, with that, I guess it's that one change, or the two changes, the change with Jeff and the change with the budget process,
And historic.
oh, and the
Yeah,
historic,
different wording.
yeah. Okay, can I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Freeney and Vice Mayor Gao. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And so I think what we'll do is put the second piece of it to Thursday so that Commissioner Kynes can participate in that.
Very good, thank you.
And then
Are
let's,
we going to have room on Thursday?
yeah, we will.
All right.
Mayor, I just want to let you know that item 3C, which is the affordable housing 4% tax credit, is time sensitive. So if there's any item we need to take up, it's probably that one as we approach 12:30.
All right, so the budget amendment is not time sensitive?
Well, we've got to do it within 60 days, but you do have time.
Okay, so let's just hold that one off.
Are we within the 60 days, Les?
Yes, you're within
Yeah.
60 days of the
Okay.
end of the fiscal
Thank you.
period. It's,
Okay,
Oh, okay.
yes, that was just Thursday.
we can maybe put that until, well, I don't want to load up Thursday too much. I want the time-sensitive things to
We
be
can roll
on
that a couple weeks.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Florida Business Incubator. Let me just go through these and see what we really,
So the budget
is that, I'm sorry, what?
the budget is Thursday, is that what you said?
No,
No, okay.
we don't know when. But because it's not time-sensitive, we'll put it out. I don't want to load up Thursday too terribly. What about the Business Incubator? Is that,
That is not.
I
time
absolutely
sensitive.
think Deborah's got to be a part of that conversation,
Yes,
too.
it is not time sensitive.
All
Last
right,
Go to the next work session.
maybe we'll,
What, Kim?
The budget one
Yeah.
can go to the next work session.
If we may, Mayor, we can roll the budget item to the next work session.
okay. And I don't remember what's on there.
Which would be the 19th, right? Yeah.
Okay.
We'll look at the Florida Business Incubator.
You'll look at that and get back to us?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that, because again, that's not going to be a 15-minute, so, I mean, do you think we'll have time on Thursday to discuss it?
Business incubator, you
Mm-hmm.
mean? Well, I mean, the downs, if we put it at the end, if we
Right,
don't have time, we
right.
just move it,
I think that, yes, I think.
Let's attempt it. And
Yes.
if we don't get to it, we don't get to it.
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
So did you get that, Rebecca? Okay. All right, so let's go to the affordable housing
Right.
issue.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, Bob Ironsmith, Economic Development Director. In a continued pursuit per the Commission direction, looking for affordable housing options. If you recall, we initially looked at Union Street for a 71 apartment project.
Oh, sorry. This is a start item. Can I have a motion to add this to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I've got Commissioner Freeney and Commissioner Tornga. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mayor and Commissioners, Bob Ironsmith, Economic Development Director. Thanks for hearing this item. We do have a sensitive deadline that City Manager Jennifer mentioned, which is October 19th. This is in pursuit of looking to create an affordable housing project in Dunedin. This is for 71 multifamily apartments on Union Street. If you recall, we initially submitted to the state under what's called the SALE program, State Apartment Incentive Loan Program, for 9% tax credits. That is a highly competitive initiative, and there were 6 applicants out of Pinellas County. The state only picks 1 out of Pinellas County, and the city of Dunedin came in at 4th. It appears that Pinellas County has their own project that is fairly highly ranked. So based on that, we tried to reposition and redirect, understanding how important affordable housing is, and we want to go under a different program that the state has, which is at a 4% tax credit under the SALE program. The project is exactly the same. It's 71 multifamily apartments, family-oriented, on Union Street. Same developer, which is Tim Morgan with Jonesboro Investments. I believe he was on the call, too, for a Zoom, so he is available. What this is the same amount of contribution that we had with the first initiative, which was $650,000 from penny funds, although there would be an option if there was something that came forward through ARPA that could be substituted out at a later date. But everything else is really the same as what was submitted before. We feel fairly good about this one. It's competitive, but not quite to the level that the 9% is. We think we have a pretty good chance, and we certainly would like to create affordable housing. I know I've been up before you on many occasions, working with the city manager, trying to get affordable housing going. It's a pretty difficult initiative and endeavor when we have scarce land, and land prices are quite high. But I don't know if developer Tim Morgan is on the call or not. He was going to be on the Zoom.
Yeah, he's there.
Is he there? So he can answer any more particular questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions for Bob or Tim? It's just a matter of applying, right?
It's just a matter of applying, and the funds are not due today. They would be due sometime late next year if the project gets awarded. So this is a commitment from the city. That's the same.
funds that we already said we'd commit, just a different place we're applying to.
Correct. Different program. And we feel, of course, Tim Morgan can talk a little bit more about this, but we feel that we have a decent shot at this one. And we knew it was very competitive under the 9%.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
This is not, it's just a quick question.
Certainly.
So we were doing 9% before. That sounded, without getting into all the detail of that, that sounded pretty darn good and a great program. And for you or for him, then, is the 4%, how does he feel about that 4%? It's not necessarily germane to whether we agree to this today or not, but I'm just curious.
Certainly, and I would defer to Tim, but basically the 4% is, as you said, not quite as good at the 9% level, but there's other ways perhaps to bridge the gap that might be available with Pinellas County that we're certainly going to look at.
Thank you.
It opens the door for some other things.
Okay. Anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak to this item? All right, seeing and hearing none, we're going to come back to the commission. Can I have a motion to approve for this application?
So moved.
Commissioner Franny? Is there a second?
Second.
Vice Mayor Gao. Okay, any final comments? Okay, all in favor, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, do we want to try and knock out this budget? Thank you, Bob. Do we want to try to knock out the budget amendment?
It is relatively simple.
Let's do it.
I'm glad Les didn't leave.
Resolution number 21-22, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dunedin, Florida, amending the city's operating and capital budgets for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021, and providing for an effective date. This has been reading of Resolution 21-22. Before you even asked me to, Mayor, I just jumped in to keep us moving.
By title only. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, Commissioner Twonga and Vice Mayor. All right, Les?
Okay.
Brief
Les
but
Tyler.
brilliant.
I'll be brief and brilliant, hopefully brilliant. Les Tyler, the Finance Director for the city. This item is Resolution 2122, which is the third budget amendment for fiscal year 21. Florida statute allows us to amend our budget up to 60 days after fiscal year end, up till November 30th. The proposed amendments are on pages 3 and 4 of the staff report. The total impact on fund balance is shown on page 3 of the staff report, and the total impact is $508,100. I'd like to briefly go over just a few of these. Most of these, a lot you've seen before, and I'll just kind of go through these fairly quickly. The first is an amendment in the general fund to decrease transfers in revenue from the CRA fund of $16,400. Each year, CRA contributes to the cost of downtown special events, and in fiscal year 21, some events were canceled due to COVID. This amendment is to return some of those funds back to the CRA fund, and this would be a decrease in fund balance for the general fund. The next item in the general fund is an amendment to increase expenditures of $33,400 for the emergency replacement of a fire alarm and paging system at the library. The current system had outlasted its useful life and parts were difficult to obtain. This item includes a delegated authority memo dated August 23rd, 2021, and this results in a decrease in fund balance as well. The next is the American Rescue Plan Act Fund. We have a budget amendment of $361,000 to increase expenses, and this is for our contract with Widow O'Brien, our consultant for the ARPA funds. And this was presented to the Commission on September 2nd, 2021, and this was would decrease fund balance in the general fund. And a lot of this will roll over into 22 in future years as we work through the program. The next is the CRA fund budget amendments. There's a couple, three in this fund. First is the other side of the transfer from the general fund of $16,400. This is the other side of that, and this would increase fund balance in the CRA fund. The next item is in the CRA fund is an increase in the budget expenditures of $50,000 for the cost of putting down a deposit on the property 362 Scotland Street in downtown Dunedin. This deposit represents a hold on the property as we go through the due diligence process and the potential purchase of the property. And this results in a decrease in fund balance. And this also had a delegated authority on August 12th, memo on August 12th. And the last item in CRA is increase in expenditures of $63,700 for potential costs and charges related to the purchase of Scotland property. Staff is doing due diligence work now and incurring some expenses related to that. And this item was presented to the Commission on September 16th, 2021. And the last item is Stormwater Fund. There's one for that fund. It's a transfer of funds of $108,000 from the Stormwater Master Plan Project to three identified drainage improvement projects. The first is Santa Barbara Drive for $50,000. The next is Buena Vista Drive for $32,000, and then the third is San Charles Drive for $26,000. These amounts are for estimated survey cost. And this has no net impact on fund balance. It's just a transfer. And one more thing to mention is Exhibit C shows the available fund balances, and each of the funds meet their target or above their target in Exhibit C. Any questions, please let me know.
Okay, any questions for Les? No? Okay, any public input on these changes? All right, seeing or hearing none, any final comments? All righty, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Franny?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gao?
Aye.
Commissioner Tornga?
Aye.
Mayor Brzezowski?
Aye, and that motion passes 4-0. We also have a proposed agenda for the 19th, which would include the Florida Business Incubator. Can I have a motion to approve?
You also added the Jennifer thing?
Oh, I'm sorry, and yeah.
And my report will move to that one too, Mayor. Unless you want me to do that today.
Well,
We've got time.
Yeah, we can do yours.
you got 5 minutes, so. All right,
Mayor,
I have something under my comment.
I'm sorry, did the Jennifer thing, didn't that roll till Thursday night?
Yes.
Yeah, because this is the 19th we're looking at.
Oh, never
Right.
mind. I take that back.
Right.
Well, that's why.
I can't.
I'm sorry, and
Jennifer
neither did,
thing.
okay,
Yes,
so
it's become
never
a thing.
mind. I screwed it all up. There's nothing being added to the 19th as far as I know.
Right.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Franny? Is there a sec? Okay, Commissioner Twanga, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 4-0. You're on.
Great. I will try to do this in less than 5
What
minutes.
did we do with Juneteenth?
We're gonna have to put that on a future workshop.
Okay.
We will. We'll take care of it.
I will try to do this in less than 5 minutes,
Okay.
Commissioners, and I hope Commissioner Kynes can just listen, because first, I want to thank you all for the first year. and putting your faith and trust in me and my law firm. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the city for the last year. There's been a lot going on. I know we've talked about a number of the accomplishments over the last year. So I'll just quickly go over what you have in front of you, which is simply an update on the legal services transition memo that you were provided back when we transitioned the legal services on October 1st, 2020. I do have an updated attachment that I was able to receive from Tom's office, so I'll go ahead and which will reflect some additional matters that have been closed over the last year. The main things that I wanted to highlight, though, in terms of my oral comments, were some of the things that we had an opportunity to work on with the city over the last year, and also to give a bit of a budget snapshot, because one of the things that some of you all may have been in this situation before, when you're a private firm and you're responding to an RFP, we gave you all an estimate back in June or May when we provided our response of what we thought your annual costs might be. And in that estimate, we anticipated that your annual cost for city attorney and special counsel services would hover somewhere around $298,750 was the exact number. And at the end of this year, we were at $272,713.79. So that was pretty good guesswork. Slightly under budget, but also we're able to accomplish some amazing projects. The GDP project we talked about was nothing short of amazing. Jennifer was nothing short of amazing in that process. We actually did that work too under your real estate hourly matter instead of using the P3 hourly matter, so to save a little bit on the hourly fees for that transaction. Oh my God, I mean, my year started out with a fuel spill at the marina on my first day on the job, so it's like, the list goes on and on, but we were able to resolve that incident without the city having to pay out any funds. The gateway, not only the development agreement, but then the property swaps. We did all of that for under all of these special counsel fees that were somehow within budget, even though we didn't know exactly what the projects would be. You now have a remote parking agreement for special events with Achieva Credit Union that is standardized for year by year. So instead of going back every year and renegotiating it, we were able to get that in place. The Lift Station 20 closing, the Aberdeen closing, there's so many things I feel like that we've been able to do over the last year. The Jay's Hotel DBA, which is coming before you for consideration on Thursday, the legislative updates themselves were nothing short of amazing this year, and we've not only got those out, but we've already worked with staff on some recommended code changes as a result of the changes in legislation. In the department support, we have updated all of the indemnification and waivers for the Parks and Recreation Department. We're working with the risk management group on updating the labor and employment policies. We've updated your public records policy, your social media policy. We've conducted trainings for the board chairs, for the not only for the board chairs, but also for advisory board members. That's now recorded for future use. We did 4 of those throughout the year. And then one of the things that you might not notice, because I don't report a lot about money, but I was pretty impressed with our ability to predict the budget. But in a number of the financing transactions that you all have done over the last year, you're also seeing a savings now by the fact that your bond counsel is one of my law partners, Dwayne Draper. So we're able to do that work much more efficiently. Before you were paying about 75% of the bond counsel fee, and now you're paying around 30 to 35%. So in each of those transactions, those are rolled into your transactions cost, but that still represents a savings to the city over time. So thank you all for an awesome year. I'm done in 3 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have, but it's really been an amazing year, and I'm so excited about continuing to work with each and every one of you. I'm really grateful and thankful to each one of you for this opportunity, and to Jennifer and her staff. They're a professional group of hardworking individuals, and there's nothing greater in the world than being able to work around that kind of energy. So I really am thankful for it.
Okay, any questions for?
No questions, but
Questions?
comment?
Any questions? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Nikki, I think, it was a huge change for Dunedin. Obviously, left a long-standing law firm. And you have been fantastic. I mean, I just couldn't be happier. I think, and you bring a good point. It's not just what you bring to the table, but what your firm brings to the table. So hearing the financial side is even better, because that was always kind of a little bit of the outstanding piece. But I think you've just brought a lot of good professionalism. You've certainly had your challenges. Dunedin is a small city with big issues, and we've had them this year, and you've been there and you've been up to it. I think you and Jennifer, the relationship you've built of trust and respect for each other is to the benefit to the citizens of Dunedin as well. And I want to thank you. I think it's been a great year.
Thank you for those comments.
I ditto.
Thank you,
I
Commissioner Gao.
appreciate your comments about the bond council. I think that's just outstanding. And having served on what doesn't matter. So I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate your ability, the ability to get to you when I think anybody needs to get to you. So I know that's my case when I really have to talk to you, which is not very often. But I appreciate that, and I also just appreciate how you work with everybody here. So I don't have input from staff. I've not gone and asked staff those questions, but I would assume by a smiling face over here that.
Absolutely.
So I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
I did have a quick question. When I looked at the litigation thing that you gave us the update last night, the Code Enforcement Board on Stens, Steve, right? Is this because he's got the big rocks? Is that what that's about?
That would be the
That
big
just
rocks.
started. Why is that under Tom? I don't get that.
3 at those.
I mean, the parking part, I understand why that's under Tom, because that's a whole
It
different
can't be
issue.
the big rocks then. I'm not sure what that is.
All right, can somebody let me know?
Yeah.
Because aren't we doing something, we're supposed to be following up on the big rocks that he's got in the right of way.
Yes.
Somebody's doing something about that,
Yes.
because that's been ongoing too.
Right,
Okay.
yes.
And I would like to see, again, whatever we can do to get all of this stuff out of Tom's office. I mean, it's been a year now. And I understand court takes a long time. But I don't know what motivation he has to hurry up either. And I don't want this to drag on. And so if there's anything we can do to try to transition some of this stuff into our not so new city attorney who knows us well, who has communication with us on a regular basis and understands our mission and goals, I think is really important. Not to the detriment of the case, obviously. So maybe you all can have a chat about that. If there's any of them, then we can get moved forward, because this parking thing is still driving me crazy. I mean, the whole neighborhood is up in arms about what he does in parking in the street, and I keep being told we can't do anything about it. And that's unnerving to me, and I'm not sure that I buy it. Not that
No,
you
that's-
all don't want to do anything about it. I mean, you know. So I just.
Yeah, now that I have I have a more up-to-date list too. We'll get with Jennifer and on the status of where some of the matters are and see if we can work with Tom's office on getting any of
Yeah.
those moved over.
Obviously not to the detriment of the cases. And then the other thing I just
I
wanted.
do agree with you. I mean, I just think it makes sense to try
It
to
does.
shift if it doesn't, hurt the case.
Yeah. The other thing is, for a number of years, we were doing reviews of our city attorney every year, and I think we should still do it, maybe in a different way than, I
We should
think.
do exactly what we did for Jennifer. Do it to Nikki, she'll look.
But I also think.
A little bit different.
I think, I think Jennifer has to also include herself, just based on what Commissioner Tonga said, So maybe you can speak, Jennifer, you can speak to Teresa. I mean, we did have a form that had all those different city attorney type questions.
Happy to.
We found it to
Reviewed
be
it
really
anyway.
helpful to open up the dialogue and in case there were any issues, but I also think including at least Jennifer in on that process, having the staff's perspective is important.
Yeah.
So
And I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor, too, because one of the things that we don't mention a lot of times in these meetings is that you all get monthly reports, too, of every single thing that we're doing each month. So if you ever want to know what value are we getting out of this city attorney retainer, my office creates that list, not for our own fun, but so that you all can see every month what we're working on, what we're doing each day. And so I hope that's a benefit to the commission. I'm not sure if you were receiving that monthly, but in some ways that's designed to keep the conversation being year long. It shouldn't be
ongoing.
1 year that we, once a year that we talk about issues that you have. If you notice something, you want to call and ask, hey, what was this about? That's why I give you that transaction report so that you're informed every month.
Commissioner?
Yes, on that transaction report, there's no time or anything on there, correct? I mean,
No, because we don't have a maximum time.
Right. I'm just saying, is there some way we could get a better understanding how big that is for you? Or?
Sure, but I can just tell you it's to be an effective hourly rate showing that I work for dirt cheap.
I wasn't honestly asking, just so we understand what's happening with it. So I don't know whether that means, well, they took a call or they did something or they're working on this as I try to follow it. And then I don't have the capacity to follow it.
It's a transaction matter, so the way attorneys usually capture their time is in 6-minute increments.
Right.
So that's in 6-minute increments, every single piece of work that's been done for the city under the retainer. So we can create an effective hourly rate out of that, but the reason why we don't track the hours is you might remember a lot of people who responded to your RFP wanted to have a certain number of max hours under your city attorney retainer, and we said, that's just not the way we do business. We think there are some services you should just be able to predictably budget for, and that's it. And if we don't have a very great high hourly rate out of that, well, then that's part of the cost of doing business, but it's also part of why we bid on the entire piece of work and why we bring our complementary practice skills to the table, because you leverage those efficiencies by already being included. So we can absolutely get that effective rate for you.
Let me just
But that's why there's not hours
That's just
on there.
a thought that I had, and if you don't have that thought, then I'm okay with it. I was just asking a general
Well, that's why there's
question.
not hours on there, because we're not tracking the maximum. Right.
It doesn't sound like that works to our benefits, so I'm kind of like.
I don't know, I kind of don't want to investigate it.
Yeah, so sometimes don't.
But I do think.
Yeah, then my firm's gonna come tell me I've got to jack up my rates.
I'm not understand.
Right,
I'm not talking.
exactly, that's the point. Let's not,
Please, guys, I said very specifically, I'm not talking about rate, I'm just talking about, I'm not sure what's being done with it. So I don't know if we need to add anything. If you're comfortable with it, I'm going to be comfortable. I just want to bring that up over on this side.
And I think that maybe, as we evolve, maybe we'll find something else, but I think I'm comfortable now, but good thing to talk about, though.
Okay, thank you,
Fair
thank you.
question.
okay,
Yeah.
and I'm very happy. We have our monthly, one-on-one, and talk about all our stuff, and then as things come up, we talk. I should try not to bother you, and so you're very responsive. I've learned how to communicate with you. Hey, can you give me 15 minutes sometime today? And it works out well. Sometimes it's at 5:30 or 6, but it works out.
I will always yep.
Jennifer has certainly, at least over the last year, shown, a lot of, it shows that she has a good relationship with you. It's very apparent. Working with the two of you on the Gladys Douglas property, it will be something I will never forget, because you both have such different personalities, and it was really fun, because I think all three of us, including you, we got to see the I'm pissed off mode, kind of thing. We got to see that sort of thing from all three of us together. So it was very enjoyable. Now looking back on it, not at the time.
We still have more work to do, Mayor. We're gonna get that FCT grant. We got more stuff to do.
I think the city manager and the city attorney should evaluate you at some point about how that experience is for them. Anything, Commissioner Tornga?
I already did that in my opening comment. It really is. It's an honor. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, there are things we don't want to know.
You don't want to know.
That's good.
Yeah, you don't want to know how the sausage is made. But I will tell you, the commitment that I made to the two of them, and essentially all of you, even though I didn't say it out loud, was that I wouldn't go off on a tangent and do anything without the two of their approval. So
That is
I
a
think,
great boundary for you. I think that's a really.
well, and it was the same boundary I used with the Blue Jays.
No, that's good. It is good.
And it's a formula
And
that
sometimes you
works.
want to.
If I couldn't convince the two of you, I wasn't going to go out and do it, you know. So I went out and did a lot of things that I convinced the two of you on. But anyway,
It was a great experience. Don't take away anything more from that than it was just a once in a lifetime, amazing opportunity, and I was really happy to get to work with you on it.
thank you. And then now we have ordinance review coming up.
Yep, and we're just about through. Actually, it should be on your November agenda. I was going to tout that, but I was like, well, we're close, but we may be coming in early under the initial year that you all gave to complete that work. So we're working on completing those. You also you had 13 ordinances come out of their first report. 5 have been received by you. We have the other 8 prepared by my office, and we're going to get those to the clerk and begin bringing them to you 2 by 2 to wrap up that work.
And you had to go to Tom to get that stuff, right?
Yes, we did. So the work was completed in March, but only about 5 of the ordinances had been presented to you in October. So we are bringing those to you. I appreciate the opportunity to get to know the ORC through this process and to get to know their process a little better, because now I understand a little bit more about what the stack I received on October 1st was. And so those are going to be coming to you as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Let me make sure. So those are the ones still from the original ones
Yes.
we approved?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's
Tom hung on to them for a very long time,
Yeah, that's not good.
unfortunately. Okay, anybody have anything else that they feel like they just have to say before we close this meeting?
Well, will there be another opportunity at the Thursday night meeting? for
If we have
commission
time.
comments?
If we have time. Go ahead.
Sorry, just at least one. I was asked to share that the Dunedin Showcase Theater production,
that's
and
right.
it starts before then, so I do want to put this out there for anybody. The show is The Farce of Nature. It will be performed at the Community Center on October 7th, 8th, and 9th at 7:30 p.m. and on the 10th at 3 p.m. Tickets are $10. Make sure you call the Community Center to get those tickets, and it's supposed to be a great night. So I just wanted to put that out there. And since I have 1 second, I am going to put October 19th. I will not be at the work session. Lydia will be attending in my place, as I will be attending the Clerks Fall Conference. And so I'm really excited to be able to attend it and in person. And so I will be at the Thursday, the evening on the 21st, but I will not make the work session that week. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that as well. So, sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, no, I do. I'll take my moment when I can get my moment, so I'll take it now. I was reminded recently via Facebook post by one of our former police officers that October 1st was the 26th anniversary of our contract with the Pinellas County Sheriff. I think that it's interesting, because I think that we do updates to our water wastewater plant, you know, because it's physical. We have to. We don't want old stuff that burns. I mean, we had new stuff and it burned, but I mean, my point is, we watch things that are infrastructure, but this is a service, but it's a very important service to our citizens. So I just want to propose, y'all can think about it, that we basically do some type of, maybe organize some type of forum with the sheriff's office, do kind of an update on what we saw then, what we see now, what we wanted for services, what we get for services, kind of just a meeting of the minds. How are we doing after 26 years in terms of some of our original goals and where we are? And I think it's a great relationship, a great partnership, but I think just like infrastructure, it just doesn't hurt to have kind of come together and just be focused on kind of a historic, you know, quarter century, so to speak. And yeah, and just kind of do like a little checkup. How are we all feeling about it? And
Are
just
you talking about us and them, or are you talking about the community?
No, I'm talking about us and them. Like
Gotcha.
a workshop type setup. I call it a forum, but I'm picturing the sheriff with some of his top people and us, and just, hey, you know, here's kind of some of the original goals. Here's what we're doing now. How's the relationship going?
Okay. Do you,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of dialogue, so that would work.
I'm fine with that. You okay with that?
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure, yeah.
So we'll just add it to our workshop items, and as you have time to throw it in there?
Yeah, and I'll reach out to the sheriffs to make sure we get the command staff here,
Yeah.
including the sheriff, to talk about.
I was actually picturing something in a conference room somewhere like, similar to how we do our strategic planning sessions.
Okay.
And it might be kind of 9 to 12 together, more informal.
I think that's a
nature.
really good
I'm not-
idea.
I'm not picturing them coming here like there are, because we're a partnership, and this would not feel like a partnership if they were coming here. It
Right.
would- So that's what I was picturing, something that's more kind of around the table and, just, and, from a staff perspective, Jennifer and I can talk about, just kind of what might be like a kind of an overview of before and now and just, just kind of have a little bit of a dialogue.
Yeah, if you can pull out any of those documents.
I have those documents.
I'd have to find the author of them, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, will do.
Everybody okay with that? You okay with that? Okay. Anything else? You have anything?
On that note, I guess it's National Night Out tonight, 5.
Oh, yeah, right.
I don't think I'll be able to be there tonight.
Be there.
but-
And I guess we'd be also remiss if we didn't congratulate the entire community for the Best of the Bay results,
Many of them, yeah.
including the city, staff, community center. Golf club came runner-up only to Innisbrook. I'll take that beating any day.
Yeah.
That's-
Right.
You're gonna lose in Innisbrook, it's not bad.
Vice Mayor, I do want to say, you covered the base, and actually Commissioner Tornga at San Jose, and then your post was great.
Yeah.
Your post that you did on Facebook about you all being at San Jose and the importance of that, and we being at the Best of the Bay and the importance of that, it was awesome. It's just it builds such camaraderie, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Well, it was really nice. Well, I speak for myself, but I thought John and I being there, and it was a really nice event. And it's really nice, and I mentioned it to the businesses, it's nice to know how wonderful things are in your community. And it's really nice to hear it from other people. And to have the school board members talk about it, to have the superintendent talk about it. And the history of they talked about the history of the school and what they're doing. We got a really nice tour of everything. So it was just really nice. It was a good-
Maybe I'm just sentimental today, I don't know, because it's late and I want to be out of here, but I mean, I think I've seen, you guys know that, over 35 years, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in commissions, and I've seen the infighting and the egos and, off the walls, and, this is a really good commission that, works together well, and I mean, I think it doesn't mean we don't debate heavy, it doesn't mean we don't get irritated at each other, but we work well and we don't take it personal, and that's huge, and I think, so I'm just giving us a pat on the back.
Well, thank you. I think that's important, very important. Did you have anything?
My son started kindergarten there 30 years ago. So it was cool. It was cool because they built, they did the work right there on the reception side where it was always not so cool. So that was nice.
Very cool. The only thing I wanted to add is just to let you all know that October 15th and 16th we'll start Piper on the Pier again.
Oh, that's so nice.
So mark your calendar, and we'll certainly want to get that on our social media. Everybody loves that. So there'll be gathering.
I have new neighbors, and they just love Dunedin, and they will just be like, wow, that's.
And it's a
awesome.
great,
That's a fun
the
thing.
great thing about it is you're there for maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 if you want to get there early to get close up or whatever. And then you move on. Go get your dinner, go get drinks. It's not a whole night thing. It's, hey, we're downtown, let's run down and see the Piper on the Pier. So that's pretty cool. And of course, we can thank former Commissioner Gracie for bringing that idea forward. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you for watching this City of Dunedin government meeting. If you'd like to review any part of this meeting or watch any previous government meeting coverage, you can watch these meetings online anytime through the city's website, dunedingov.com. Stay Stay connected with everything Dunedin. Follow the city on this channel and on the city's Facebook page, through Twitter, and on the city's YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching this Dunedin television production.